It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy Iannacco, Renee Ritchie, and Serenity Caldwell are here. We'll talk about the new Apple TV, lots of tips for setting it up. Also, why you may or may not want to buy the iPad Pro. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 479, recorded Tuesday, November 3rd, 2015, inside the Apple TV. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Gazelle, the online marketplace for buying and selling used gadgets. Shop from a variety of certified pre-owned electronics or trade one in for cash. Give new life to a used device at gazelle.com today. And by lynda.com, the online learning platform with over 3,000 on-demand video courses to help you strengthen your business, technology, and creative skills. For a free 10-day trial, visit lynda.com/MacBreak. That's lynda.com/MacBreak. And by IT Pro TV. A good IT Pro is always learning, and IT Pro TV is the resource to keep your IT skills up to date with engaging and informative video tutorials. For a free 7-day trial and 30% off the lifetime of your account, go to itpro.tv/MacBreak and use the offer code MacBreak30. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Macintosh news, Apple news, I should say. We very rarely cover Macintosh news. Joining us right now from Los Angeles, Andy Iannacco of the Chicago Sun-Times. That was cute. You quickly set back up. What were you manipulating over there? You're getting something ready?
Well, I'm taking a meeting, and I had to adjust the camera so you couldn't see Mr. Spiel. I've said too much already.
We just call him Steven. I think that's really all you need to be said.
I just realized that of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screens that I took to LA with me, this one might be actually useful to me during the show. So
good. There you go. Thanks for being here, Andy. Also with us, as always, Renee Ritchie from imore.com. He's back in beautiful, sunny, balmy Montreal.
They closed the door of the plane, Leo, and then they announced it was 0 degrees and thunderstorming in Montreal. Just after
and it's too late to get off.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, did you have a nice visit to the city? And
it was gorgeous. I mean, you guys just have it rained a little bit while I was there, but I liked that. It was beautiful weather. Nice.
Also with us, Serenity Caldwell from imore.com. Good to see you.
Hello.
She's got the pellet stove fired up.
Yep, nice and toasty. Although it is kind of warm today. It's 69, so I shouldn't rely on the stove, but I love it.
It's actually warmer there than it is here right now.
Really?
Yeah.
That's shocking.
Yeah, it's a little chilly here. We're
3rd of November.
We're done. We're done. Let's see. I guess we'll start with the. I actually want to kind of do a segment on photography because I've been looking at Andy's pictures from the Boston Library and the Commons there, and they're not iPhone pictures, and I'm pretty impressed by them. So I want to have a little conversation about the state of camera phone photography. But we'll put that off because, of course, Apple TV has arrived. Many of us have them. Can you get it in Canada, or did you actually bootleg it into the country, Renee?
No, actually, I went to the Apple store as soon as I landed, and they had like 300 of them lined out on the shelves. There's no network
short
support.
Supply.
Yeah, you can't get it anywhere near the content that you get in the U.S., but you can get the boxes.
In fact, I got one and played with it. In fact, we set it up, showed Megan how to set hers up on iOS today if you want to watch that, and I've done a kind of unboxing and a little bit of a review. And I liked, and then Lisa said, well, how come we only have one?
And why is it not in rose gold?
Don't I get one in the gym? And I said, okay. So I ordered 2 more. So we're replacing the Apple TVs, basically.
I've ordered 5, Leo. I'm giving away as Christmas presents.
They're good. I don't know if they're $150 to $200 better than the old Apple TV.
I was going to say, I don't know if they're good. I'm not sure they're at the, I'm going to give it to somebody who is not necessarily particularly interested in this technology, because we've all had some some not great experiences this first weekend.
Yeah.
But we motor through them because we have perspective and we see all the benefits that are coming future.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if like my aunt who just wants Netflix would want to
So
drill
I
through
figured this out.
everything.
I figured this out. There's this big disparity, and if you're in the middle, you're screwed. But if you're on either end, you're fine. Like if you're a techie, you'll figure your way around it.
Right.
I put one in for my mom yesterday, and all you had to, we bumped her phone, and it was basically done. She downloaded Netflix. We put that in once, and she's super happy because she doesn't worry about any of the stuff that we worry about.
Well, you're still stuck with that remote, and bumping didn't work for me. I was so disappointed. That was like going to be the coolest thing ever, but bumping the phone didn't work.
Didn't work for me either.
Very sad.
It worked after a while. So, like half an hour, we actually had to stop down the show and go. And then we went to manual, and I said, no, I refuse to enter passwords that way.
Like an animal.
Like an animal. I'm a man. And we tried again. Is there NFC in the thing? How does bumping work?
No, you have to be close. Like it's Bluetooth, but it really wants proximity. Yeah.
Yeah, so I held it and touched it and did everything.
How can you get closer than physical contact?
Yeah.
You gotta apply yourself, Andy. You gotta want it.
So are you telling me that Apple intentionally installed weak Bluetooth in there?
No, the Bluetooth is fine because
No,
the controllers all use
imagine it's an
Bluetooth too.
encryption thing.
Oh, it's
I
an
imagine
encryption thing.
Yeah, I don't know if that's official or if there's actually, security reasons for it needing to be closer, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was just, you don't want somebody to authenticate from 2 rooms away.
Yeah.
That would just be weird.
Yeah. So we took 3 hours to set up. So take some time. It'll work eventually.
I did mine manually because Serenity very quickly went dibs automatic setup.
Oh. All right.
So I did
think
the manual setup.
what I said was I already had my iPad, my Apple TV set up, and I'm like, Renee, you haven't set up your Apple TV yet. You want to try doing it manually? And he said, sure.
Because you have to write
and
it
then
up for both.
cursed me for the next 45 minutes. Yeah.
No, it was fine. Like it was a little bit consternating at first just to figure out how to do it, but then you don't have to enter that much stuff, so it was pretty much fine. But my mom's with the automatic setup took all the 5 minutes, and we were watching Supergirl, so it was fine.
We couldn't get it to bump until I restarted her phone, and then after restarting, it bumped immediately.
That makes sense.
So yeah, just a little tip.
Bluetooth is a horrible technology. Just to get that in there.
Just a little tip. Reboot.
Agreed.
If it doesn't work right away, I would say it's not horrible to do it manually, but you don't want to do it manually because now you still have to enter your password on the phone, right? It doesn't use thumbprint.
You do still have to enter in your password on the phone.
That makes me mad. Apple, you've got my password, you've got my fingerprint. Why?
It doesn't transit though, Leo. They don't want it off device yet, and they haven't got a good way of securing it between like against a man-in-the-middle attack or someone with a radio. I mean, they want to make sure that the security stuff is against a well-funded bad actor. And until they can think of a really good way of doing that, they would rather you put in a password and be a little bit inconvenienced than there be a front page story like someone managed to figure out how to use a radio transmitter to suck in everyone's passwords.
Apple errs on the side of security, and I understand that. But it does mean you enter your password an awful lot. I actually made my iTunes password easy because I've been you enter that a lot.
Well, also, I think one of the reasons why people weren't just complaining, but they were being colorfully complaining on Twitter about the password setup is that the touch interface for selecting characters, it works great after you've used it for about 20 or 30 minutes. You do have to get used to it, but if the very first time you're using this is trying to roll through this thing to type this password, you're really going to be upset.
It's a little touchy. I actually turned Megan's remote down to the least sensitive or the slowest. I can't remember what they call it, sensitivity or slowest, because it is a little easy to accidentally go, whoa, slow down.
Serenity figured out a bunch of great tips for me by the time I had to do it, so I was really happy.
So what is the setup? The initial setup is to sign into your iTunes or iCloud account. Can you do both? Can you do 2 accounts?
Yes. Yes, you
Just
can do
like
multiple accounts.
Okay.
Yeah, but only one Game Center account, which is lame.
Do you have more than one Game Center account?
Well, no, but if you're playing games with other members of your family or if you're playing multiplayer games, it's nice to be able to switch off.
Okay.
And log achievements. And this way you have to log completely out of your Game Center account and log into somebody else's.
Right.
And you can't have any accounts running concurrently, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
It bumped 2 accounts really well. So again, I took my mom's phone, bumped it to the machine. She has a separate iCloud and a separate iTunes account because her iTunes account predates iCloud.
Oh, you did a double bump.
It just bumped once, and then it said, please enter your iCloud account. So she put in her iCloud account. Then it said, please enter your iTunes account. She put in her iTunes account.
And by the way, you
done.
do that on the phone, or the
Yes.
iPad, which makes it much easier than doing it with the
See,
remote.
that's the part. See, I understand why they're not transiting thumbprints, but I don't understand why they couldn't have figured out a way, because they've been using this thing for a while. They know how tedious it is to put in passcodes. Let us put don't even update the remote app. That's a whole separate issue. But just allow the passwords to pop up on the iPhone, because you're doing that for setup anyway. And then let me just enter all my passwords.
Or they could have done something similar to what you do when you pair a Bluetooth keyboard. If you don't want to authenticate from a room away, you simply say, "Okay, I've just put this passcode on your phone. Type in that passcode on your phone, and the phone will say he's legit. Give him the credentials."
Yeah.
Well, it's like
Do a handoff.
two-factor authentication. And some third-party apps are doing something similar to that. When you set up Hulu, for example, it punts you to the web, and it asks you to enter in a 5-digit
I wish
code.
Apple would enforce that
that's
with
pretty much-
everybody.
That's pretty much every streaming service now.
Except
Like, I had
Netflix.
to-
Except Netflix. You still have to, by hand, enter
Like
your
an
Netflix
animal.
password like an animal. I really thought Apple would enforce that. In fact, I was about to praise Apple because I set up HBO Go. All I did was go to the website, enter the code, and it worked. I didn't have to do anything on the TV. I set up Showtime, and it automatically did that. I went to Netflix, because I was real close to saying, Apple, thank you for enforcing this rule, because that's how it should be. Netflix, I guess, just doesn't know how to do it.
It's a strong suggestion, but not an enforcement.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that's weird is to open it up and it's sparse. You're used to with the old Apple TV, all these icons for miles. There's nothing in there.
Yeah.
You first set it up. You've got the App Store. It's kind of nice to see that. You've got music. You have TV. You have iTunes TV and movies. You have settings. There's no apps installed. Not even Netflix.
Photos, yeah.
Photos.
Nope.
That's right. Photos.
And beautiful,
I mean,
beautiful
that's-
screensavers.
If you think about it, if there were apps installed, especially if there was Netflix or Hulu installed off the bat, a lot of users would never have the reasoning or the need to go to the App Store off the bat. They may
interesting.
just be content with Netflix.
Interesting.
By forcing them to basically have to download them just like you would with an iPhone. Now they actually have the reasoning or the requirement to go to the App Store. And then they can explore and be like, oh, I can get Crossy Road on this. This is cool. Oh, I already own some Apple TV apps
There goes the
because I
day.
have them on my iPhone. Yeah, pretty much. I played so many Apple TV games.
There is no podcast app,
was
although there's a rumor there will be a podcast app. Somebody saw a screenshot, I guess.
The
It's on
best
a
way to
demo
describe the
video.
app
That was
Yeah.
that was
the best way
pretty.
to
it was-
describe the Apple TV is that it is way too long in coming, but the version we're getting is racing out the door.
Yeah. They didn't have enough time for Bluetooth keyboard support. They didn't have enough time for it's the selection of apps. I only got to play with it for 3 days before I had to leave for here. But wow, I guess I'm so dumb. I can't figure out how to get into the App Store because every time I click on this icon, I see this place that only has like three apps in each category. It's like I'm not even trying to be sarcastic here. It really is like the Microsoft Store, App Store, that if you're going to look for modern apps that take advantage of Windows 10 and Windows 8, it's okay. Let's get this. Let's see how many different word processors there are for. Okay, there are 2 editors and they're both Markdown. That's disappointing. And so how about I do a search for photos? Not really. Okay, a search for podcasts? No really answers. And you're like, okay, it's day one. We'll keep the faith, brother. It'll
2 Twit apps, though. 2 Twit apps. Day
3,
one.
count them, 3
Oh,
Twit
3 now,
apps.
wow.
Yeah, all approved for launch day. You did
they're hooked up to reproducing.
You did a nice little video at iMore of all of the apps available at launch. A lot of games.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't know their
Lot of
name, you
games.
couldn't even find them. You have to search them based on name.
The
first day.
other really cool thing is I was surprised that as soon as I set up, I had a copy of Cannonball for Apple
Because you'd
TV.
already
and I-
installed it on iOS.
Well, because yeah, exactly. This whole thing where every game that I ever bought and played for about 6 weeks and then stopped playing is going to start to like zombie come back from the grave. Like, remember, I'm hot ass full.
I have mixed feelings about
you
that,
loved
'cause
me in
it's-
2009.
It's a universal purchase. It's not a universal app. It's a completely separate binary, but developers can choose to group them in a way that if you have the iOS app, you get the Apple TV app for free. And that's great for us, but I want a lot of really good games. Like I want Atom Atomic to make another $10 for
Right.
Cannonball because you
Right.
put in like a bunch of new awesome characters and things, and I want to give them some new money. But then people now, when they don't see that purchased app, they just think the app doesn't exist. So like they didn't know
That's
that
a little
Plex was
confusing,
out.
isn't it? Yeah. You'd probably prefer people see it than not know. You did the only way to do this, which is to enter a single letter, because when you enter a letter, it shows you all the things with that letter, and you literally went through the alphabet.
To Andy's point, there were not enough apps yet for them to populate categories or top 10 lists when they launched. There was like some categories with one app, so they just chose to hide them.
How many are there total? Were there total on launch?
Under 1,000, and there's over 1,000 now.
Yeah, it's growing fast. Well, to wit, there are 3 Twit apps now, and none of them official, but all of them great. One free, 2.99 and highly recommend you buy all 3. Or you download the free one, then you buy the other 2. The 2 that you pay for use the API. So, and then Craig Mullaney, who wrote our iOS and Roku app, did the 3rd, and he's giving that one away for free, which is nice. Yeah, see, not a lot of O's, but the P's. There's tons of P's, including Weihnachtsspielsalat, which seems like a W, but okay.
And Plex is there now, so everyone's happy.
And Plex is in there. People are very excited.
Launched.
Yesterday. Yeah, that's
the
it.
app
Plex
is great too.
It's a force multiplier for any streaming box that you have. Because if that's why the 3rd or 4th or 5th thing I looked for was Plex, because if you have the Plex app on that, now all of my photos on my network, all of my music on my network, all of my saved videos on my network are going to be available through this thing. And that in itself will be responsible for at least $23 worth of the usefulness of the price of this thing. I mean, Apple, I bet that we're making fun, but this is the first weekend, and it's a really new device that developers are going to have to learn how to support. I bet that Apple's crunch, I would assume that Apple's crunch is to make sure that by the time people are opening these boxes on Christmas Day or whatever holiday in December they choose to celebrate, that there is a really rich and robust app library waiting for people when they do the setup.
It's pretty good now. There's certainly plenty, and you could play the big hits, the Crossy Roads. It's got all of the networks you want, except, of course, Amazon streaming's not there, and Google isn't there. Google Play isn't there. Those are the
Apple
two.
will accept them, though. I mean, if they want to make their apps,
Will
they'll
they?
get on there. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Has Apple said that?
Yep. I think they said that to, was it BuzzFeed, Ren?
Good.
I believe so. Yeah.
so
I mean, the
making,
only thing-
by the way, Amazon looks stupid for saying, oh, we don't carry the Apple TV because they don't have our app on it.
Yep. The only
real
real problem there is that Amazon wants to have their store. And they, unfortunately, if they have their store, due to Apple's current rules, it means that Apple gets a 30% cut of anything they sell on that store. And Amazon does not like that for obvious
Amazon
reasons.
gets around that, though, on other platforms. On the Xbox One, they just have an app that doesn't, you can't buy stuff.
It's a player, yeah.
It's just a player. And I think Amazon should do that. And then you have to go to the web, buy it. It's annoying, but there it is. Right?
Well, you also can't buy music. I don't think you can buy music with the Amazon Music Player app for Roku. I have to double check that. But I think there's absolutely no downside for them to at least have a player app. And given that Google and Amazon, their whole upsell, their whole point of why you should buy from them instead of Apple is that you don't have to play this on something with an Apple logo on it. I've never bought movies on iTunes because for me that's just a very, very bad deal.
Well, it means you can only play it on the Apple TV or an Apple device. So
exactly, I'm sure we'll see a player app from these people coming soon. Remember that there was a YouTube app at launch. The YouTube app is better than the Roku app.
It's
for a bunch
great
of YouTube
app. Yeah, very happy.
If all it did was give me the option of saying do not autoplay the next video. That's the one thing. That's the one thing I hate about the Roku. It really is. So I'm watching like a 23-minute show on like the Ben Heck channel or Tested.com, and I'm in TV watching mode. I put the remote on the counter, and now it's counting down because it's going to choose another video for me. I have to like put down my drink, leap for the table, grab that remote because I just don't want it to autoplay something I didn't choose it to do. Not that it hurts me, but it's like you should let me not do that if you don't want me to do that.
I do have to say, YouTube videos look spectacular on the Apple TV.
The biggest problem for
really
Amazon with the with not putting the Prime up there is they finally, because they had really good PR. People were talking about the vertical lock-in of Apple, and you have to use Apple devices, and very few people pay attention to horizontal lock-in, and it's just as powerful. And they've now shown people what horizontal lock-in is. It's like, we're not going to let you play our videos on anyone whose platform we don't like.
Right.
And because it is a lock-in, like I can't just take an Amazon video and put it on iTunes or put it on Ultraviolet or put it on Google Play. I bought it, but I have no ability to transport it, I'm at their mercy as much as I am Apple's. And this is the first time we've really seen how the politics or the power games of that negotiations go.
Well, to be fair,
Renee,
Apple doesn't let any of its stuff played on the other player.
No, absolutely, but we know that. And like Amazon, we had like much better feelings about it because, like Andy said, I bought a ton of stuff on Amazon because I figured I could play it anywhere. And this is the first time we've seen that. Well, maybe not.
Well, we don't know for sure that Amazon is not going to let a player app, not going to be interested in developing a player app for that. And also, I'm less worried about Amazon deciding that a certain platform might not work for them. Like, I don't think we have a BlackBerry version of their video player. That's just not a good idea for
Andy,
them.
It's untenable.
Yeah, but it's a much bigger problem where I've spent, $500 on movies and TV shows. This will never, no matter what kind of a really great phone comes out in the future, no matter what kind of laptop I switch to in the future, it will never, ever, ever, ever play on something that doesn't have an Apple logo on it, or can't run iTunes. So
well, for
I'm more
future,
worried about that.
I mean, it depends on how, but we've seen like Google withholding apps from Windows Phone, what that does to an ecosystem. So it's always something.
And I'm talking out of my hat too, because I even rarely buy stuff on Amazon because I feel like I'd much rather buy the Blu-ray or the DVD and rip it, so I just have an MP4 file. So
Web 90 in the chat room says YouTube doesn't look any better on the Apple TV than it does on any other platform. I'm not sure that's true, actually. I thought it looked really good.
And the Netflix speed is ridiculous compared to even compared to the old Apple TV. It is so fast.
Oh yeah, so fast.
So what Apple does, of course, is it caches the Netflix stuff and plays
and
it
then you
from their
scrubbing
own
stuff.
servers. Love the scrubbing.
Was fast,
you scrub with the you scrub with the trackpad, and then you can say skip ahead a minute, skip ahead 2 minutes. Last night we decided to watch Dark Knight, and I decided, you know what? For the first time in a long time, I'm buying it on iTunes. So we can play it on the Apple TV. And I used the Siri, what did he say? And it was awesome. It really works. I use jump ahead,
jump
jump
an
back.
Apple feature.
Well, Lisa gets up, right, to do something in the kitchen. And I pause it, but I don't pause it in time. So no problem. I just wait till she gets back, and then I skip back 30 seconds. It's amazing. Love that stuff.
Yeah.
That, to me, is the compelling reason to upgrade if you have an old Apple TV, is the Siri search, the cross-platform search, and the Siri commands. Yeah. Games, I don't think that's a big deal, but maybe for some it is. I did buy the Steel case, by the way, that you recommend, the Steel series that you recommended, Renee, and it does work. You can play Crossy
Nimbus
Roads.
is very nice. Yeah. I mean, I think overall, when it comes to Apple TV and games, it's not necessarily that people are going to go out of their way to buy an Apple TV just for games the way they might for an Xbox or a PlayStation or a Nintendo console, but it's a nice additional perk where it's like, oh, I can download all of the apps that I like to play on iOS here and some new ones too. And you know what? I love Alta's Adventure on my iPhone. I played it a ton and I still play it sometimes. On the Apple TV, it's so much better.
Is it?
It's just in part because on a larger screen, certain things just make more sense. Especially, I've been playing a bunch of jumping games on the Apple TV in terms of platformers and 2D side scrollers. And just, I have so much more fun playing them with a traditional console, like
I agree,
thumb pad than I would on my iPhone.
You're going to want to consider the controls on the game before you know whether it'll be a good Apple TV game. You don't want a game that uses mousing or touching of items, because mousing is not an easy thing to do.
No, and in fact, it's prohibited more or less.
Well, you can move a pointer around and click.
You can, but Apple is strongly discouraging Apple TV developers to do that. Yeah, exactly. It's not a great experience,
but side
especially
scrollers,
because you have the thumb brand.
Jumpers.
Space Age does the best job of it.
Natural, Which one does?
Oh, it's
Space Age.
Space Age. Okay.
Yeah, a great game.
We played a game on iOS today. It was Megan's pick. I can't remember the name of it, Minion or something. And it required, because it would be a perfect interface for the iPad. And because you touch something to move over there and stuff, and the worst possible interface on an Apple TV. So consider that when you look at a game. A game like Crossy Road, pretty easy because you're just moving up, down, left, right.
And Crossy Road multiplayer is delightful.
I can't wait to try that. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so much. I was doing it with my boyfriend last night, and what's even better is when you realize that even if you're playing in single player, if you have both a controller and a remote hooked up, you can actually control the same character at once. So it's really delightful.
Cooperative Crossy Road.
Yeah, cooperative / / being mean to your partner,
Uncooperative.
non-cooperative, yeah. / intentionally throwing them into traffic because it's really hilarious.
Yeah. So just to kind of summarize what's there and what's not there, no Bluetooth keyboard support yet. No, it does not work with the current Apple Remote app on iOS, but presumably both of those will be solved.
It's interesting because the keyboard usage is apparently like low single digits,
Right.
and almost all of those were developers. So it was not a high priority, and I don't know how that argument is going to work itself out. And the remote thing, like when you start considering what the new remote does, it has much better detection than the old remote app, and it's got Siri. And do you want, if you don't have the Siri remote, do
You need
you
a
want the
better app.
iPhone to transit Siri for you? And how do they So I think, again, that's the result of it just not having enough time to do it, but it'd be really interesting to see how they solve that problem.
Siri is not the same Siri. It's her cousin. She does different things. She doesn't do all the things Siri does on iOS. You can't get a Google Play Store or Amazon Prime or Amazon Streaming or Amazon at all. But you can AirPlay both of those, right?
Yes, you can from your other devices.
So there's a workaround. How does that look?
Oh, absolutely. Pretty well, actually. I mean, I used to AirPlay on the 3rd generation, and the 4th generation's AirPlay is even better.
Okay.
So it shouldn't be too much of a problem.
Yeah, it's great for the apps that support it. For the apps that don't, like some of the Canadian network apps, then you have to use mirroring, and it's not great. But as long as they support AirPlay Media, it's fantastic.
AirPlay Media is lightning fast.
I did want to say something about Siri, that I was kind of disappointed that it doesn't speak back to you, because as I was packing, I was as much complaining as I did on Twitter when I was setting it up, like early in the weekend. By like Sunday night, I was like in my bedroom, like packing, folding clothes, and just grabbed the remote and said, you know, I won't do it. It doesn't use a trigger word, so I don't have to be worried about that. But like, what's the weather in LA this week? And and then I dropped the remote on the bed and kept like going back to folding clothes, because I was expecting it to work like Alexa does, where you just keep on going, it'll tell you what you need. I was like, oh, that's right. Now I have to face the screen and
read
wait
it
for the answer.
So, yes, she doesn't talk. She doesn't listen unless you press the button, and you must hold it. You can't just tap it. You have to press it, hold it, and then let go when you're done talking. All of that makes sense. It makes sense in a noisy TV context. It's exactly what you want.
Also, Apple's the last company that would want to ship something with a hot mic on it until they feel as though they can make the case.
You mean like the iPhone 6 Plus, 6S? That one? Hey, Siri. That's got a hot mic on it. I hate to tell you.
Well, it's not in the way that people would expect it to be.
I eschew theological disquisition.
She eschews
it's a personal hot mic.
Yes, exactly. It's something that you personally have opted into, choosing your device to be turned on. In a TV context, it could be a number of different people, and if there are multiple different people in the room, not all of them have given personal consent.
Well, it's worse than that. You don't want Mannix to say, hey, Siri, and then your TV wakes up. That's not good.
Or your kid starts to over yell. I went to see Nuance's Solutionist, and it was amazing. You click your fingers twice, 3 cameras lock on you and 3 mics, and a beam forms on only you so that no one can interrupt you while you're talking. But that not everyone wants that in their living room.
Can you put like laser pointers on them so you actually see these 3 targets in your chest?
Now, Xbox is always listening, and Xbox, that can be a problem. Our kid comes into the room and shouts stuff like Xbox pause, Xbox stop, Xbox.
Well, I don't think that's necessarily. I love it on Alexa. I love it on Amazon Echo.
I do too.
I mean, I'm looking so much of what gets me excited about Apple TV is not what it's doing today, but thinking that, gee, if they come out with a software update, so I could simply be in the room, ask a question without even facing the TV or a remote and get an answer, boy, would that be great. And I'm not doubting that there's a whole bunch of whiteboards with a whole bunch of really cool ideas. And because this box is an iOS device that runs something very sophisticated, there really are no limits to what it can do. It just depends on what Apple wants to make a priority.
Apple has already pushed out tvOS 9.1 to developers. The beta is out and includes, according to 9to5Mac. By the way, 9to5Mac, fix your certificates. It includes. I had to talk Google into letting me visit the site. Are you sure it's dangerous in there? No, it's just their certificate's out of date. That it improves Wi-Fi network compatibility, in-app purchases for App Store apps, and improved scrolling. I don't know when they're going to push it out. By the way, I misspoke on iOS yesterday. I was able to correct it thanks to the chat room. There is I said it was a lightning connector. There's a Type-C connector on that thing. What the hell's that for?
Not
It's
for you, Leo.
Not for me.
Not for
For you,
the
customer or
average
user.
person.
It's for developers.
Yes.
Apparently.
Screenshots, video recording, you can do
Yeah.
with that too. It's some interesting stuff.
It's for jailbreakers, and then it's for the apps that jailbreakers write that take advantage of that port. Apple's being good sports about all
Do you
this.
think Apple will ever turn it on for more storage or anything like that?
When they could sell you a new one, hell no.
Hell no.
Well, also, I mean, they would have to do some sort of Fusion Drive setup where they use
also have
the
to have a file system.
storage.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it would add a level of complexity to iOS that I don't think it's
I
set
just
up
got
for
to
yet.
point out, Xbox One has a USB 3 port. You plug in a big hard drive. It goes, oh, hi, I see you have a 3 terabyte hard drive. Shall I start storing games there? And you say yes, and that's it. Nice. It works very well.
Until Apple can figure out a NAS solution that doesn't suck, I can't imagine them ever allowing that.
Can you capture video from it?
You can.
You can.
Yeah, not
Yep.
not DRM video, but all other video.
Yes.
So if I have a video on my photos and I start playing it back, I don't know why I'd want to do this since it's on my photos, but I can capture it.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
just start
and moreover,
QuickTime, you
you
pick
can
the
capture.
source.
Huh.
Super easy.
Okay.
Actually, Serenity has a how-to available.
Of course she does.
I have many how-tos on how to capture video and all
What
sorts
else
of other
should we
crazy
know
things.
about the new Apple TV then?
Actually, one of the things that I thought was really cool about the 4th generation Apple TV is how it handles audio. In previous generations of Apple TV, obviously there's the optical out for optical audio port on the 3rd generation Apple TV, but the 4th generation Apple TV is a little unique in that it actually has built-in AirPlay support for lossless AirPlay connection, so that there's no delay between the AirPlay speaker and what's on your screen, which is kind of fantastic. So if you have your AirPlay, say your Sonos system, hooked up to an Airport Express, or even if you have a Sonos Playbar and you have it hooked up to a previous generation of your Apple TV, you can actually go into the 4th generation Apple TV's audio menu and change the audio source from TV to whatever AirPlay source it is. And you can even do that on the fly while you're watching your videos.
That's
which
pretty
is
cool.
Really cool.
That's
yeah.
really cool.
One of the biggest underrated features, I think, on the
No, I
TV.
just I have it hooked via HDMI to my AV receiver, which is probably for people who have big setups. That's probably the most likely. And it,
Yes.
by the way, does 5.1 beautifully, getting great surround sound out of it.
It does 7.1 too. Which
I'm
I
sure it
kinda like.
does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to buy 2 more speakers to find out.
Yeah. I really recommend that people go get the read the Apple Online User Guide. There's a lot about the interface that isn't really intuitive. But it's easy, but it's not intuitive. Like if you have to be one of those people who's a button masher, like double tapping the home button brings up like an iOS 6, iOS 7
Multitasking,
style.
yeah.
Right, app switcher, so you can quickly go from 2 different apps without having to bounce into the home page first. You can also, I was trying to remember whether or not the older Apple TV supports Bluetooth audio out, but whether it does or not, the new one also supports Bluetooth audio. So if you want to not disturb your partner in bed while you're watching TV, you can do wireless headphones with it.
This
And
is
for
the
hearing
old
aids,
one.
it's also
Let me find
fantastic.
a newer one here.
Yeah, that too. There's so much really cool. You really should go through settings and just go through every single one of these menus. There's so much accessibility options that are built in there that it is a slam dunk for people who need extra options, because that's certainly not something that Roku and others are doing a lot of great work with.
You can make your own closed captioning style if you don't like the built-in.
It's so cool.
Oh, I'm going to have to read this. I wish they did. I guess nobody puts this stuff in the box anymore, but I discovered, for instance, if I keep pressing the menu button, I get to the screensaver, which is really nice.
Yeah.
But you have
Well,
to kind of
all the-
discover it, right?
There are lots of cool tweaks. I mean, it's damning with faint praise to say that they made it an improvement over the old Apple TV. But a lot of the stuff that I appreciate about it is, like, you could always reorder the icons on the launcher menu, but the Apple deck of icons was always sacrosanct. So, but now if you want Netflix, Hulu, and HBO Go to be on the very, very top, no problem, just move it right in there.
Yeah. You could say, find me funny horror movies.
Yeah, it's and those screensavers also, they're going to update those, so you can enable it when you sign in to update those. And they're out with helicopters and drones, and they're filming. They are so nice.
So the John Coates, of course, immediately made a app that I'm sure highly illegally connects to the servers, because this stuff is served to you. They say, what is it, 600 megabytes? Could be as much as 600 megabytes a day.
A month.
A month. Okay, that's not so bad.
That's why there's an option that you can say how frequently should I connect to that server and get updates to these things. You can actually just say just once a month. Don't. Yeah. Please don't.
It's called Aerial. And while this looks like a still picture, if you look at the cars on the bridge, they're slowly moving.
But there's so much potential here. Like make a version of News.app that prioritizes video, or start making apps that you put the Apple TV in a classroom or a meeting room and all the iPad. Because there's a yoga app already, and Serenity will remember the name because I never do. But it takes the heart rate from your Apple Watch and puts it up on the monitor while you're exercising.
Oh, that's cool.
All the stuff working together. I can imagine a bunch of kids in classrooms, all of them with iPads and the Apple TV in the front, and all of them working on things. I mean, it's really cool that this stuff is just linked together.
Yeah. Some of this is plane footage. Some of this is obviously drone, as you mentioned, drone footage. You're flying really low across vegetation in Hawaii, and it's really clear that that's not an airplane. Yeah. It's really, this is amazing footage. The screensaver is available for Macintoshes. It's called Aerial, and John has put out a beta version of it that lets you cache the videos, which I would recommend, because I have a feeling Apple might cut off his access at any time, although they haven't so far.
I mean, they're super proud of these.
These are gorgeous. They should be proud. They should make this on the Mac screensaver. So anyway, since they haven't, Aerial is the name of it.
OS 10 Golden Gate will have them as a screen.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, wouldn't that be a great screensaver? His screensaver allows you to have different videos on different screens. So on my 3-screen setup, it's the first time I've ever really wanted to leave the screensaver on and just sit there.
And it's 60 frames per second, which I know some movie people, they want 24, but yeah, 1080p, 60 frames per second. And that's great for a lot of things. That's why,
yeah.
You want 60 frames per second for something like this, for aerial footage or for landscape footage. It doesn't make sense.
Games. Bleeding and streaking. Hey, does anybody know if Apple's APIs allow people to create third-party screensavers, or are we locked into that for now?
In theory, Flickr will. There's an option in Flickr in that app to create screensaver, but when you go to select it, it says this option is currently unavailable. So I'm guessing it might come in a future update, but it's not available currently.
Manhattan.
Yeah.
Pretty.
That's definitely a feature that would also enhance the Apple TV. If I could use my Apple TV screen or my living room screen as a status board where I'm not watching something, where it'll, like in the kiosk of an airport lounge, only I get to choose. Here are the comic books that are being released today out Comixology. Here's the weather. Yeah. There's the next train to Boston. That sort of stuff.
TV screensavers are a strange idea, since you really probably should turn your TV
fireplace
off
for the holidays.
Well, but if I'm home for if I've willfully turned the Apple TV on because I'm going to be spending the morning fixing breakfast, doing some editing, doing email, but not necessarily watching TV, but I want to be able to glance up.
I always had to be
the whole reason why we're buying this new 4th generation Apple TV is that we really want it to be able to do more than just be a Netflix player.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
So hopefully developers in Apple are going to find ways to do it more than making it an entertainment hub, but making it like the screen hub for the family.
If you keep watching this video, they go really close to the Empire State Building. It's kind of scary.
And this is something we're going to be pointing to 2 years from now when the FAA finally has drone regulations saying, enjoy this footage, because it's the last time that people are going to be allowed to simply spend $2,000 for something from Amazon and shoot video like this.
This is what it's like to be Supergirl when she's not in a hurry.
Yeah, leisurely Supergirl.
Yeah,
or maybe senile Supergirl. Yeah. What else? Come on, tell us more. We want more secrets.
More secrets. Well, you mentioned the double tap the home button or the menu button to get into the screensaver, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
What else?
We are sure that 4K is not happening, right?
4K is not happening.
There's
it currently,
no way.
to my knowledge, you currently don't have the hardware potential in there to support 4K and also support all of the awesome stuff that the Apple TV already has going for it. It might be a little jerky, and Apple, they don't want to ship anything that doesn't look perfect. In terms of cool things to know about, there is home sharing. A lot of people were asking about whether home sharing was disappearing with the new 4th generation Apple TV. It's still there, so no panicking. You can still, and in fact, that's the way that you can get podcasts. If you sync your podcast library on your computer, you can play podcasts on the Apple TV that way.
What happens if you double tap the Siri button?
If you double tap the Siri button, as far as I know, nothing happens because Siri has to be held down. However, there are some cool button tricks.
Stop touching me.
Yeah,
Doesn't say anything.
Yeah, you want to get an intelligent assistant that talks back to you. Download Carrot Weather and jab the ocular sensor a few times. See how she likes that. The coolest tricks I've actually found, honestly, are the keyboard tricks, which involves using various buttons of the remote to access keyboards faster. When you're in the keyboard screen, for instance, you can press the play pause button to quickly shift between uppercase and lowercase rather than having to scroll down to the uppercase, then scroll back up, then scroll down, then scroll back up. You can also click and hold on a letter to pull up its uppercase or lowercase version, as well as any accented characters. So if for any reason you're looking for, Amelie or something that has, that has any kind of accents on E's or A's or U's, that's the way that you can type in those characters, which is pretty neat. You can also.
No, that was good. That's a sort of feature where you see it in a lot of different apps where you picture the developers of this thing getting so frustrated by something, they put something in just to make their jobs as developers of this hardware easier, and then maybe not knowing if that's going to pass or not for the final certification, and then everybody uses it so much that, yeah, we really want to be able to type letters faster. We don't care if it's not obvious to the user. We really want this to happen.
Oh, yeah. There are a lot of cool little tricks like that. Actually, the touchpad, if you experiment, some apps are pretty good about hinting that you can do different things by tapping the sides of the touchpad as opposed to the middle of the touchpad. And in fact, when you're in video, if you tap and click the side, like the left side of the touchpad, it'll instantly skip back 10 seconds. So if you tap that 3 times, you can skip back 30 seconds. Or if you tap that twice on the right side, you can skip forward 20 seconds, which is pretty cool.
I didn't know.
I love
that.
the scrubber.
That's a good one. That's good.
The new scrubber where you just start swiping on the thing and it shows you the preview windows. Because Netflix, it used to play really fast, but if you moved even 10 seconds, it would swirl and swirl and swirl. And now it just shows you a little thumbnail and you go there and it's instant.
Yeah.
And not obviously, but my favorite change is when you want to play a video, it no longer says authorizing, making sure you're not a criminal authorizing. It just swirls it quietly. And I think that's just a way better presentation.
Yeah.
There's just so much that just trashing the old Apple TV, which was terrible compared to everything else that was out there. That's just the big thing. I love how the swiping is also velocity sensitive. That if you want to go wicked fast or just sensitively fast, it just depends on how fast you're swiping.
And something I learned actually from you linking that help guide, Andy, is that I've gotten in that occasionally by picking up the remote while watching something. And then all of a sudden I'm accidentally in the swipe forward, swipe backward moment. And previous to that, I was just clicking and praying that I could find the original moment. Turns out if you press the menu button, that will cancel out of that screen. So if you accidentally pick up your remote and enter scrubber mode, just press menu and that'll go away and you'll continue watching what you watch. Yeah.
I wish I complained about that, and then later on saw the user guide. It was still worth complaining about, but I wish I had read the documentation first.
Right. Or
and the Siri is so great. Like I just said, go to episode 2 of. Sorry, Andy.
I bet that was another one of those. The hardware and software developers inside Apple were screwing up so many times. They themselves wanted a way to abort that. I can see that so clearly.
Nope. They're like, this is not okay.
I just really love how I can say go to season 1, episode 2 of iZombie, and it'll show it to me. Yeah. And Apple is actually really cool about this. So the way that it works is if you ask it to find something and it knows that you've bought it on iTunes, it'll show you that first because you've purchased that and it's going to be really high quality and everything. And if it doesn't and it knows you're a Netflix subscriber, it'll show you that first because you've already paid for Netflix. So even if you have it, even if it's available on iTunes, why make you pay for it? It's right there. And then they'll start staging options by what it knows that you're logged into and what it knows you've already paid for. And then it'll show you services if it can't find them elsewhere that, yes, I know you're not a Netflix subscriber, HBO subscriber, but if you were, you could get that at this. And it makes it both sort of empathic, but also increases discoverability, which are both great things.
So you can use the remote as a controller for the game. You can use the steel case or other Bluetooth gaming controllers that are made for iPhone or made for iOS as a gaming controller. Can you use your phone or tablet as a gaming controller?
You can, but it requires an app for that specific game. So, for instance, you can use Crossy Road. You can use Crossy Road, the iOS app, to control Crossy Road on the television. Yeah, that's how the multiplayer works.
Oh, do I have to Bluetooth my phone? Connect my phone via Bluetooth?
Yeah, I believe it uses a Bluetooth connection. So you just have to make sure that Bluetooth is on. You don't even have to pair it. You just have to make sure the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi are on.
Nice.
And then it'll auto find it. Yeah. I will say Crossy Road, there's been some people who are having initial problems with that. Force quitting Crossy Road on your Apple TV will reset that process and make it work.
Okay.
At least that's what seemed to have been happening. But that's generally the process, is that an iOS app, to use an iOS device as a controller, it needs a companion iOS app.
Yes.
Sing
until they come out with remote.
Yeah.
Until remote.
At one
point, even then, it would be hard to have one remote that's properly controlled.
You kind of like it to be a second screen. I think it's a good way to do it. Yeah.
Has all the buttons.
Yeah, so Smool's Sing is actually a really great example of that. They have a karaoke app that they've had for a number of years on the iPhone. And on the iPhone, I kind of thought it was a little gimmicky. On the television, it makes perfect sense, where you have these big, you can turn it into a karaoke party, essentially.
Right.
And you use the iOS app not only as a secondary cheat sheet, but it turns into a microphone. So you just hold it like this while you're singing along to the karaoke on the big screen.
According to Mac Rumors, I don't know if this is true. I have a 3D TV. There will be software that will use the Apple TV to create a 3D. I guess it could. I mean, it's just a form of video. So there may be some 3D gaming on this thing. That'd be Pangea. Apparently, is one of the.
Yeah, there were some. I think on the first day, some people saw some of that in the download stuff. And if you have the glasses and you have the TV that support it,
I do. I'll have to try it. Yeah. There's a nice setting in there if you're watching Batman Begins or The Dark Knight that makes sure that nothing gets too loud. You can say, "Don't bother." It's the "Don't bother the neighbors" setting. Because on movies,
it's like Sonos's.
On movies with big dynamic range, you can't. The talking is very quiet, and then something blows up. And I got in trouble with my when I lived in an apartment with my neighbors because I was trying to watch Batman Begins and I couldn't do it.
Laporte's watching Batman again.
Turn it down quick! Oh my God! All right, I think a good tour. Now let me ask the $64,000 question, or at least the $150 to $200 question. Who should buy the Apple TV?
I would say somebody who's next year. I think there's going to be a wider pool of people that are going to be really happy with Apple TV from day one. I think it's a narrower pool right now because of the lack of apps and features that clearly are going to come in the near future, but weren't ready yet for ship date. I think that if you're really heavily invested in the Apple ecosystem right now, if you already have an iPhone, if you already have an iPad, if you've already been buying games and apps, and if you are not intimidated at all by setup and by things that don't work 100% properly. I don't mean that you have to be have the courage of a lion. I mean that so long as you don't run screaming when you see an LED that's supposed to be blue and it's suddenly yellow and you don't know why. I think all those people. There's still a $99 for people who absolutely don't care about advanced things other than Hulu and Netflix and HBO and the Lifetime channel.
And iTunes, of course. Yeah,
a $99 Roku box. Will do you fine.
Not iTunes. Yeah.
No, yeah.
That's the problem. It's a very competitive space.
It is.
And I think there are a lot of people who don't care. Maybe they would care if they had a friend who they went over to watch TV at their place and they saw all the things their friend was doing. Let's say in February of next year, when the apps and the hardware is more mature. But you can't, just like you can't get me convinced to even look at a $35,000 car when a $20,000, $22,000 car has wheels, a steering wheel, and a place to plug my phone in. I don't care about anything above that. But it's good now. It's going to get great later, and you have to really know that you're not just pick up the remote, make one thing work. Also, play with the remote for at least a second. So if you absolutely despise it, maybe you want to buy the next generation or wait for third-party remotes.
At first it was a little touchy. I've come to love it. Having the trackpad and the click there is a really nice additional feature.
I like the trackpad, but I don't know what Apple cut a deal with the devil in the mid-90s to get its life back. And the devil said there's going to be a price, and you will magically have an utter inability to understand how the human hand works. Because anytime you give them a keyboard to design, a mouse to design, a remote to design, they will they will go down the path of design woo-woo and make it look nice, without realizing that, okay, so you've basically built this thing so that it's symmetrical on both ends. We've put all the buttons in the middle, so you can't simply pick it up in the dark and instinctively know, as you would do with a Roku remote, which end is up and what you're actually pointing it at. They put you do train it to, you do get used to picking it up without scrubbing backward and forward, and there is that trick, but it's also there's no sense of touch about it. It's flat black on the business side. So again, good luck finding it when you've got.
I
the
hold it upside down half the time.
Yeah, it's like I love. I would much rather, my dream streaming box, I think, would be the Apple TV with the Roku's remote, because it's big. You can hold on to it. It's got big, thick, clicky buttons that you can find in the dark. I'm hoping that there's going to be third-party remotes that incorporate the touchpad. I don't know that Apple's actually interested in letting that happen yet. I have a couple questions in that haven't gotten answered yet. But this plus a new remote, for me, I would spend $100 on a new remote. It's so good.
You also don't. As I learned, because I used to put the Apple TV remote, it was so easy to lose. I'd put it in my pocket while I'm always watching TV. You can't do it with this one because the trackpad is still live.
Yeah.
So they should have a way. That trackpad should be it should. Maybe it's too much.
I bet someone. I bet someone's going to make just like we were talking about these nice spec rubberized cases for phones. I bet someone's going to make a case that fits as tight as this. Only it basically is. Well, no. What it is it would be longer than the remote, so that suddenly the buttons are clustered up the top instead of in the middle, so you can actually feel them going. And also, if they had like a little bit of a bump margin on the side, you could pick it up without touching the trackpad at all, or you'd have some surface in order to make that happen. I mean, just without doing a brand new remote, for me, if you just put like a shoe around it, I complain about that, and
here's a little tip.
Put a Pokemon sticker on the back of it, up at the front, so that by feel, if you can feel, your Squirtle show title. Feel the puffy sticker there and know that suddenly I know it's right side up. I know it's pointing towards the right direction.
Here's a little deal. If you have an old Lightning dock, you can just dock the remote right in the Lightning.
That's what I've been doing. Yeah.
Have you? Does it?
Yeah.
It doesn't need charging out of the box.
No, I charged my dev kit for overnight when I first got it because it was being a little wonky, but I think that might have just been the software as much as it was the remote. I haven't needed to charge it since I got the dev kit, and that was, I don't know,
3 months,
a month and a half. Yeah, 2 months ago.
I wish there were an indicator. Is there somewhere I can maybe
it'll show you on screen?
On screen,
it won't show you now, but it'll show you on screen when it starts to run down.
Okay, and how long does it take to charge?
Also, if you go into settings, if you go into settings, look for the remote, it will actually have the battery status.
The battery level. Yeah, it takes a 9 hours for a full charge.
Whoa, dude.
But again, that's one of those things where, my remote is low. Okay, it flashes 20%. I use it, and then I put it on the dock at the end of the night, and then I get it in the morning.
If you end up buying a game controller, that could be used as a remote as well. So
absolutely, yeah. And you can set up a universal remote as your remote as well, and that does everything except Siri and the home button.
Okay.
I really like the Siri remote because I think they really nailed the interactivity on it. Because on an iPhone and an iPad, you're used to direct manipulation. You see something, you touch it, you move it. And Apple is so good at one-to-one tracking that you forget it's glass and you think you're actually moving stuff around. On the Mac, it's different. The Force Touch trackpad does a really good job of sort of intermediating that, but it's still, you're touching something down here and you're moving a pointer on the screen. With the Apple TV, they have the Focus UI, which is different than a mouse pointer interface. And still, they've built it so that as you're moving slowly, you feel the icon or whatever it is almost tilt over and move a little bit with you. And then you feel it go over the edge. And when you go faster, it sort of goes da-da-da-da-da, almost like it's hitting little edges as it goes. And I think they did a really good job. I feel connected with it. And I didn't think that I would initially because that's such a hard problem to solve. Something in your hand, something you're seeing 10 feet away maybe. And I really like the way that there are some problems with it, of course, but I really like the connection that it gives you.
I got to say that I got to say that I was a little bit disappointed when I first saw it because I wasn't at the event when I saw it on video, and I thought that, geez, it's too bad that it's the exact same basic interface visually as the old Apple TV. Now that I'm actually using it, I really love those little touches of, as Renee says, subtle bits of motion in the icon so that it's sort of reacting to your intention. That helps your eyes guide your hands to what you actually want to do. I hope that continues forward in that direction. Still wish that the UI were a little less stark. It's as I'm setting up and using it. Oh, good! It's medium gray text on a light gray background. Here we are in East Berlin, 1968.
Well, and also I don't think it's immediately obvious which icons are selected. I know it's attractive to have the drop shadow and a kind of semi 3D look, but it's not
also, a lot
obvious.
of people remember that a lot of people have crappy TVs.
Right. I have a good TV, and I still can't tell. You know what? I would be ugly. Put a big red ring around it, please. I can't. I know it's ugly, but functionality sometimes has to take a front seat.
I would like to see what that testing lab looked like. I bet they must have gotten everything from $10,000 state-of-the-art screens to Black Friday $62
and then ignored the
Yugoslavian reject.
Because I guarantee you on a Yugoslavian TV, you don't know which button is highlighted.
Yeah, like
it's very subtle.
4 megahertz refresh rate, 1 to 10 contrast ratio, and it still has to work.
Andy Anako, Renee Ritchie, Serenity Caldwell. That was an hour on the Apple TV, but I think it was worth it because it is the latest product from
New
Apple.
and shiny, Leo.
Agreed.
New and shiny.
So new and shiny.
It's very new and shiny because they protect every surface with a piece of plastic. You have to unwrap everything. Everything. Our show today brought to you by Gazelle, GEZELLE.com. Here comes the new iPad Pro. We'll talk about that in a minute. Maybe it's time to trade in your old iPad Pro. Actually, you don't have to. This is the beauty part about Gazelle. When you go to Gazelle.com, you can get a quote on your existing iPad that's good for 30 days. You don't have to decide to sell it for a month. So wait till you get your iPad Pro. Wait till maybe you don't even know if you're going to buy it. Get the quote now. It's locked in, and that's the main point. Of course, as we get closer and closer to ship date, just as time goes by, all of these products lose value over time. So get the quote now. Lock it in for 30 days. That's to your benefit. And then if you decide, I don't want it, no big deal. And if you decide, I do want to get that upgrade, now you press the trigger. Actually, while you're waiting, add your old phones, your old tablets of other manufacturers like Samsung and Microsoft. Just find all those old gadgets and pile on. Gazelle will send you a box. They ship it for free on anything worth more than $1. They turn it around fast, and they send you cash, a check, or a PayPal credit, or an Amazon gift card. They'll bump the value of that 5%. Now, you may say, well, what happens to all this great stuff that I'm selling? Well, the best of the best is in Gazelle's store. Yes, Gazelle now sells as well as buys. If you're looking to buy a certified pre-owned device, they have a variety of iPhones, iPads, and Samsung Galaxy phones to choose from. Each device is fully inspected, backed by a 30-day return policy, sold without a carrier contract. It's a great way to get a replacement phone or to get a phone for a kid or just, save some money. Gazelle, Gazelle.com. To buy, to sell, you got to go to Gazelle. Give new life to your used electronics. Trade it in for cash or buy certified pre-owned at Gazelle.com. Today, we thank them so much for their support of MacBreak Weekly. Now I'm in Hawaii. I think this is Hawaii, right? Is it Hana? That's pretty.
Like the beginning of Lost.
It's the beginning of
Magnum PI.
No, I think it's the beginning of Jurassic Park.
Ooh. Fantasy Island.
They're playing.
Hawaii.
This is not the one I was talking about where you're flying in a drone. This is probably a helicopter shot, but there's drone shots where you're really right there in the trees. It's pretty cool. Thank you, John Coates, for making that possible. Appreciate that. Hope Apple doesn't get mad at you. There's two ways it could go. Apple could sue him or they could hire him. There's no in between. All right, let's move on. Andy, you took some amazing pictures with your new Nexus phones, the 5X and the 6P. And I went to Andy. By the way, if you're not following Andy on Flickr, flickr.com/AndyI is a must. Some great cosplay stuff. But I was looking at the squirrel, and I thought when I looked at the squirrel, gosh, that is a beautiful photo. Must be an iPhone 6s Plus. No, it was the Nexus 6P.
It helps that that's the optimum way to take a picture of anything. It was like late afternoon sun, hitting it exactly the right way. If you look at his paws, where his head is in shadow, but the paws are in this beautiful golden sunlight.
Yeah, but the detail and everything on the fur is really, really crisp. I like the bokeh in the back. So the question really is, at this point, you could pretty much get any top of the line camera phone and get pretty good results. Is Apple still the leader?
I've been thinking about this because I had a wonderful week with the 6S Plus at New York Comic Con and also walking around New York taking test pictures. I've now had about a week trying to take great pictures with these new Nexus phones, and I have had a hard time. I don't think I can say that as actual JPEGs that the iPhone pictures are better than the Nexus ones or vice versa. I would say, though, that the iPhone is still a better camera, and it really comes down to the CPU. It is fast. Because so you mean
the experience is better, not necessarily the image.
The experience is better, but also it works better. The Nexus, it focuses pretty much as fast as you would want it to focus, but with the iPhone 6, it's noticeably faster. When you're taking shots in sequence, you're basically with an iPhone shooting a 30 frame per second movie at 8 or 12 megapixel resolution. With these, it's slower and also it gets choked up faster. The other thing is HDR. You may as well keep HDR mode on all the time. With the Apple, because not only can it do those calculations and take the picture almost as fast as it can take a normal picture, but because it saves it also can quickly save the original and also the HDR version side by side, so you have both copies. With this one, it takes beautiful HDR pictures. It's not like you wind up with a watch cursor for 5 minutes, but you take an HDR and sometimes you'll have to wait about a half of a second or 3/4 of a second for it to finish writing. Panoramas, they don't end as soon as you tap the stop button as they do with the iPhone. And then thirdly, there's the range of camera software that's out there. My bag was one of the last ones to get off the carousel yesterday, so I wound up just killing time with all of the different playing with all the different editing apps that I have on my iPhone. So what does this look like as oil painting? What does this look like as a watercolor? What does it look like when they're trying to find squiggly lines to trace in there? There are plenty of really great editing apps for Android, but a lot of the really creative and fun ones are only available for iOS. So I'm not saying that the Android is an inferior camera, but I'm saying that if I were, let's say that I were buying a phone strictly for the purpose of doing everything you could associate with photography, which once again, it involves so much more than simply getting the JPEG at the end. It's the process that gets you to the JPEG. I would still say that the iPhone is the best camera you can get.
DxOMark, which really does this all synthetically. They do it all with acuity tests. It's not a subjective, I like this picture. It's really based on a lot of tests. Science. And I don't know if they're trustworthy or not. They rank the iPhone 6s fairly low down. It's 11th in the ranking. Xperia Z5's number 1. But I think these differences, there are a couple of points differences are probably fairly minor. The S6 Edge is number 2. The 6P, number 3. The Droid Turbo 2 is number 4. The G4, the Note 4, the Moto X Style all tied. I'm not sure I'd give the Moto X Style a very high mark. So, I guess, yeah.
Mantech finally published their 15-page review. Yeah, they got their Gold Editor's Choice Gold Award. I think it's only given once before in their history. But
wow.
It's worth reading just for them describing what Apple did to not just the A9 processor, but also basically have a PCI controller that makes the SSD work like a MacBook. On a technical level, including the image processing, which Andy was talking about previously, they're just starting to lap people now, and that's what I find really, really fascinating. And they delve deeply a little bit into the chipgate thing, and they basically say that if you have the other chip, it's still the best chip in the world. There's no
I
bad
have the
chip.
other, as somebody who has the other chip, I'm very happy. I have the
Yeah,
Samsung.
it's the best or the bestest, I guess, chip in the world. But just what they put that thing through to test it was remarkable, and I like that Antec does that kind of stuff.
I really do.
DxO, it's important to note that DxO provides a really great service. They have specifically chosen not to be a subjective test suite.
Right.
It is we are scientists. We will tell you here is what the instruments that we have aimed at this thing are telling us and giving you numbers. They don't pretend that just because this phone has a higher number than the other, it's a better camera.
Right.
So that's why you still go to people like Renee and Serenity and me and you to at least collect here's what these individual people's priorities are, and here's what they think. The other thing is that I did on my photo walk on Friday. It was one of those six phone photo walks where I had iPhones, I had Android phones, because I really wanted to see what it would be doing in different situations. And I would say that when you get down to in terms of the final JPEG, I do think that the Nexuses and the iPhones are on the same level, because shot after shot after shot, I'd be taking these same things, same setup, same position, same time of day. It's not, maybe one picture would be better than the other, but it would be based on, I wish the sky were a little bit bluer, or I'm glad that the Nexus decided to make this image a little bit warmer. Things that are kind of random to what the software thinks is the best solution for this. And you also can't forget that I think that one of the great equalizers in iOS is the Photos app. I don't think any other app for any phone makes it so easy to simply say, this picture is good, but I wish it were a little bit warmer. I wish there was a little bit more detail in the shadows. Lots of different apps will let you increase contrast, increase saturation, apply these filters to it. I don't think that anyone does it as well as, I want the light to be more light. I want the color to be more color. And it will do all these intelligent things, just like you'd handed this photo to a photo finisher who understands that when you say, I wish this were brighter, what you mean to say is that I wish that there were still really good deep colors and blacks, but I wish that there were some more detail in the shadows, but I don't want you to make it so bright that suddenly, this light in the background is now just this big flashed out triangle of white. I want you to have still some color in it. So it's an equalizer.
I think at this point, though, and by the way, we still haven't seen the new Microsoft phones, the 950 and 950 XL. Just the sample shots I've seen are pretty amazing. But I think at this point, it's safe to say you don't now have to pick a phone based on camera. You could pick it on other things, maybe how the camera works for you, how it feels in your hand.
Also, I think Andy said this previously too, but if you just want to take a photo and all you want to do is pull it out of your pocket, take a photo quickly and put it back, it's different than if you want access to RAW or all sorts of other features. So you can sort of pick the one that is best.
Yeah.
If you don't care about any details, just pick a phone that lets you take great photos. If you have very specific needs, you can pick a phone that meets those.
Right. And it'd be hard to go
your
wrong.
Mom you take a picture, you didn't promise it would be a good one.
Yeah.
That's something I didn't mention. I do wish that Apple gave us some sort of a shortcut to take a dead phone and turn it into a live camera. I love how, like on the Samsung, you just double tap the home button and it will wake up, unlock, or at least unlock into camera mode and launch into the camera. I love how the Motorola phones, as you're taking out of your pocket, all you do is do this as you're putting up to your face, and that motion wakes it up, puts it automatically in the camera.
Yeah.
With this, it's still, I have to tap. It's not complicated, especially since they put the camera icon on the lock screen. But you have to get into,
you can double tap the home button, double tap the on/off button.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Hang on.
Well, it's a little weird because the first step turns the screen on. It's a little weird. Quickly double tap the on/off button on the 6P.
Not working for me.
It's supposed to. Maybe I don't know.
It is on the iPhone. It turns it on and off.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the iPhone.
I think a poor choice. I think it's a poor choice. The Note 5 double tap the home button. That's a little bit better choice. I think it's a little weird choice to. I didn't know that double tapping the home button turns on Apple Wallet on the iPhone.
As of iOS 9.
That's nice. Thank you.
Is it? I'm sorry to derail us. Is that supposed to work? It's not working on the iPhone 6 Plus here.
Yeah, it's supposed to.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a setting that you have to turn on.
Maybe it's not turned on by
It's
default.
It's enabled by default.
I thought it
on,
was, yeah.
on the 6S and the 6S Plus. But if you're on a previous version of iPhone,
Serenity's talking about the Apple Wallet, and we're back on the 6P.
Oh, sorry.
Double tap.
I'm sorry. Double tap to launch the camera.
To launch the camera, yeah.
Okay. doesn't work on mine, but
I'll have to ask Jason Howell, who's our Android expert. Of course, my 6P is
no. It does. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I said that does work on the Samsung. I thought that you said that it also works on.
Double tapping the on/off button on the Nexus 6P is supposed to turn on the camera. Yes.
Right, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the iPhone 6.
Oh, and the iPhone 6, I don't know what the hell.
We're all talking about different
Now we're
things.
all confused.
You can say, yo, Siri, take a picture, and it'll do it all for you.
Yo, Siri. I would love
great,
a
thank you. And now,
double
like
tap to open
200,000
the-
readers just got pictures like of the inside of the
I said, yo. I said, yo,
Yo,
Siri.
that's what we
like
should
Elon
say.
Musk.
We'll
Yeah,
say
like
yo
Elon Musk.
Siri from now on, and that does nothing.
Siri. Ahoy telephone.
Ahoy Siri.
You can say, yo, Siri, take a selfie, and it'll turn on the camera but not switch it around, which is my personal heartbreak.
Oh, gosh, it should do that.
Yeah.
All right. By the way, Apple's results came in minutes after we went home last week. Nothing really surprising. Maybe more
So much
surprising
money.
was Tim Cook's unwillingness to kind of say bullish things about next quarter. But I guess they always do that.
It's the currency, Leo. Currency headwinds. They're hedging, and there's headwinds.
Yeah, they're hedging. But the good news is sales were very strong in China, just as Cook said they would be. iPhone sales grew 22%, 48 million iPhones sold in Apple's Q4, which is the quarter just
Ridiculous.
ending. iPad sales declined 19.5%.
Not surprised.
No, everybody has what they want now.
Well, I think they also changed. Did they not change the accounting? So instead of doing the subscription-based accounting over 2 years, it's 3 years now to sort of recognize the longer update cycle.
Oh, okay, that's
I
interesting.
think I read something about that.
Yeah, they've changed that, and also there's major anticipation for the iPad Pro. So people who might have considered an iPad Air 2 are probably not considering one because they're waiting.
Now,
remember that we've all believed that the iPad Pro was a fait accompli like as of a year ago. So that's probably a good point.
So this is the quarter ending September 30th. That's their fourth quarter, which means they ends their fiscal year. That means the annual report is going to come out. And VentureBeat has a little analysis of the annual report that I thought was interesting. R&B. I wish Apple had an R&B budget, but they don't. The R&D expense.
Is Dr. Dre in the R&B budget?
Maybe he is. The R&D expense
dudes.
was $8.1 billion. That's a significant $2 billion increase since last year.
Cars ain't cheap, Leo. Cars ain't cheap.
Well, and that's good because for a long time, the Apple R&D budget was kind of below what would be traditional for a company of their size and wealth.
Speaking of deal, did you see that when the stock went down, Apple bought, I forget what it was, like $14 billion worth
Smart
of
move.
shares?
That's what you do. Prop it up. Get a deal on your own stock. They do have over $200 billion in cash. They now have 110 full-time and 110,000. I wish they had 110 full-time employees, but no.
Really, really stressed and overworked.
Working
Who haven't
awfully
seen
hard.
kids and God
And
knows
3
how
of
long.
those are Phil Schiller.
Yeah, about half of those employees are probably at the Apple stores. That's a really big number. But the most interesting thing to me, if we scroll down a little bit, is that we think they sold at around $1.7 billion worth of Apple Watches.
Mm-hmm.
That's by doing a little math. You got to get out your calculator because Apple Watches is in other products. And other products grew from $8 billion to $10 billion in 2015. So
They use pCalc on the Apple TV to figure that out.
yeah. I'm wondering what is 1.6. That's a lot of money. I mean, it's a big business. I wonder. We don't know. How many of those were the gold edition and how many of them were the sport. And But
Speaking of it, the Dubai store opened this weekend, and people kept tweeting Serenity and I saying that the gold watches were thrifty sellers. At the,
I'm sure they
I
were
wouldn't be
Dubai.
surprised.
flying out the doors in Dubai. Apple Watch is doing. I would say that means it's doing okay, right?
I think it was Neil Seibert, or I don't remember if it was Neil Seibert or maybe it was Ben Thompson was saying that it was roughly analogous to Fitbit, which is currently the most public leader in that space.
Yeah. Actually, Ben's going to be on Twit on Sunday, so we'll query him. He's always
Smart guy.
I love his analysis. Always interesting. So what else? What from the annual report? Office space from 19.7 million square feet to 25 million square feet, and that's not including the campus, the spaceship campus.
Or the one they're leasing. Or
They
the
got
other
a new
stuff.
one. Yeah, they got a second one they're building.
And they had, I think they said 30% Android. Was it 30% increase or just 30% Android switcher rate in their
Tim
latest?
Cook said that 30% of the new iPhone sales were to Android switchers.
Which is a good number for Apple.
It's a great number.
Well, it's also good because it's given us an analyst call. A lot of the complaints that Apple is getting from the market is saying, yeah, but all of your money is being made off of this one product. What happens when you've sold an iPhone to everybody? It's not so much, a lot of us might hear it as, see, a lot of people would much rather switch from Android to the iPhone if they got a chance. It's really Apple saying there are so many people out there we have not sold an iPhone to yet. They're so like China. China still buys more iPhones than the United States of America.
Yeah.
So I think it's mostly pointing to we have gone through and we have taken the gold nuggets that were lying at the top of the soil, and now we're starting to dig to get more of the nuggets that weren't immediately visible. Yeah.
Do you want to comment on the Bloomberg piece saying that Apple, by focusing on privacy, is hurting its development of its AI software? We've kind of been saying that, really, in some ways.
There's two ways to look at this. One is that they don't. Right now, we understand AI mostly from a Google point of view, and that is or even an Amazon point of view, and that is a massive cloud implementation, where Apple, Montreal, nice, where Apple is looking at it and saying that there's actually, following their nearline strategy, what they've been doing with a lot of things, there's actually an online component, but there's a local component, and there's things that we can do on the cloud, but we don't have to do them on the cloud. Yes, certain things have to be done there, and we'll disclose those and say we're not sharing them and whatnot. But the devices in your pockets are getting so powerful that we can do a lot of this work on the local device.
We don't have to snoop on you in order to do this. Yeah,
and that's a choice. And we saw recently that Google, which was resisting doing Facebook-style advertising for a long time, is now starting to get into that because Facebook is getting an advantage, and that's one thing you can do. But I don't think Apple's model is fully understood yet, and I think the entire model, if you go 5 or 10 years out, the state of what a device is, what an app is, and what a service is going to change so fundamentally. And when you see Apple's acquisitions, which is doing local AI, like they bought a company that specializes in local AI, and they have all features like Genius, which does not very good yet, but could one day do very good local predictions. I think it's very early to start worrying about this kind of stuff.
This article, though, also said that part of AI's improvement comes from being in a collegial environment where you give papers, you go to conferences, and Apple's kind of, its secrecy is partly as, kind of traditional, but partly I think they don't want people to know how much they're doing on AI. For instance, according to this article, new hires on the AI teams are told, don't put your title in your LinkedIn or Twitter bio. Yeah. We don't want anybody to know what you're working on. They've been told to lock their office doors whenever they leave. That's probably a standing order to all Apple employees.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, that's a lot of that isn't so unusual for any Apple employee. But I do think, AI is a complicated field right now. There's a lot of concern, and I think rightfully so, over just how potentially dangerous meddling in AI could get down the road.
I'm saying don't meddle in AI. People are meddling with my stuff way too often.
Yeah.
Andy Anako is not AI. We're talking artificial intelligence AI.
Don't meddle
in Andy's stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I drop a CPU cycle every time those initials are said in this conversation.
I never thought of that, Andy. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
We'll call it artificial intelligence. What's ironic, Serenity, is that this was a category that was deemed dead a few years ago.
Oh yeah,
a failed category.
People assumed that it would never work out, and now in the last 6-7 years, there's been a huge. I would say it's actually been the last 20 years, but we've really only been hearing about it in the last 6-7 years because of the individual breakthroughs that have been able to occur, both with hardware processing and with systematic language. But you look at all of the AI startups that are popping up, like Viv, and you really have to wonder. Is Apple's secrecy because they want to try and get one over the rest of the AI community because they want it to be better than Cortana or better than Google now. And unfortunately, with their commitment to privacy, which I do think is critical and a key component of their AI platform, but with that stroke, they have sort of limited themselves in the amount of data that they can collect versus their opponents. And as a result, I think they have to try and find different and new ways of doing things uniquely. And they may not want to share that information, which is, I do think that's a little frustrating, especially considering the potential hazards of artificial intelligence. That's one of those things where maybe it might be good to collaborate a little bit, not give away the farm, but I mean, Apple always sent people to ebook conferences, for example, when they were working on the EPUB standard. They've worked on the WebKit standard. So Apple has a history of sending researchers and sending their engineers to conferences when you're talking about working on standards and working on things that potentially could affect a wide swath of people. But because AI is so proprietary right now, I think that it really has been siloed into these little different cylinders, and that Apple really can't. I don't know if they feel like they can contribute without worrying that someone's going to not necessarily steal their research, but reincorporate their research and potentially put them even further behind in some ways than Google now.
I think a lot of the complaining is coming from academicians who say, Apple's not presenting papers, Apple's not sharing their results, because that's the tradition in academia. But of course, the tradition in Silicon Valley is exactly the opposite. And the question is, can you make progress without collaborating with others working in your field? And I bet Apple, knowing Apple, figures it can. And I think you make an excellent point, Renee, that they're taking a different path. So maybe this kind of going off on a different road might be great. Researchers may say, big data doesn't help as much as the little data in your phone. Who knows? We'll see.
Well, yeah, and it's something that I would like because it's the same thing with everything. I don't want this to be done yet. I want people trying and experimenting with new things, because you can come up with great new answers. And if everyone was doing the same thing, we'd all get the same. We'd have the choice of exactly the same problem. Now, if you for some reason you believe it is not your business to know my data, and I'm willing to live with less functionality or different functionality with the idea that I'm preserving my own data, that's fine for me. And I'm glad that we have a well-funded company doing
even
that.
Apple, and I noticed this with the Apple TV, but even Apple is always asking when you set up a new phone, would you like to share diagnostic information with Apple, yes or no? Would you like to share information about app use with app developers, yes or no? And so it's pretty clear that information is of use. And I don't know about you, but I almost always say yes. When Microsoft Windows 10 asked, do you want to just turn everything on? I said, yeah, hell yeah. I want Cortana to know where I am, what I'm doing, what movies I like. That's good. I don't care if Microsoft knows that. But I love to have the choice. I think everybody should have the choice. But I get so much benefit out of aggregating as much data about me as possible. I'm willing to take that chance. I find it hard to find what the moral harm is.
Well, I'm with Renee. I mean, some people are going to be... I choose to see it as a transaction, just like by transaction of paying $1.89 for this yesterday.
I'd love
really
free
good
code.
transaction. I was happy for that. But other people are going to be a little bit more concerned about that. The other component about this, though, is that it's not just Cortana learning a lot about you. When Google servers are able to observe hundreds of millions of people, and you personally visit Disney World, it's going to give you information and recommendations, not based on your habits, but based on what is every human being who goes to Disney World, what do they want to go to and do first. So that's, again, available to some people who want to.
Not a bad thing.
Others. So that's, it's bad to simply slam the door and saying that Apple is stupid for being so closed up. It's also bad to say that Google are jerks for trying to get every piece of information they possibly can. Again,
and there's
read the outside
third
of the box before you open it up.
There's a third side where people, it's increasingly common, and there were some hilarious interviews with McAfee about this kind of stuff, where the value of the data that we're providing Facebook and Twitter and Google might be so great that they should be paying us for it. It's not just that they're giving us a subsidized phone or they're giving us a great free service, but it could be valuable enough where they should be putting $100 in our pockets every month for getting access to all this data.
That's fine. Go ahead and negotiate that deal.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's just like it's difficult for humans. It's really simple to understand. Here's my wallet. I'm giving you this money. Thank you for this shiny box. Right. Or I'm getting this Linux distro and I can see the clock ticking away as I install it. We're understanding that transaction. When data is just flying back and forth, we don't always know what the value is. You don't see your email and your pictures and all stuff going up into Google's cloud and being chomped. So it's nice that if you can understand that they're not doing anything for free. You're still giving them something in exchange for all these services, and you decide on how much value that has to you.
Right.
Yeah. Right. To be fair, that does go in every direction too. We don't know. We can't assign a dollar value to how much money, let's say, how much of Apple's profits is based on the fact that they make it so hard for people to maintain an ecosystem that includes more non-Apple products. It pays to remember that no matter what you think positively or negatively about a company, you can't use the software inside your head you use to evaluate human behavior and try to make it work with corporations. Because again, no matter how good the commercials are, no matter how great their products are, no matter what your relationship is with that company does not love you. They just want your money. And sometimes getting your money is also mutually supportive because they can give you something that you will value even more than the money that you give them. But there's always going to be at some point a conversation inside the office saying, how does this help us get more money from Andy Ihnatko or Renee Ritchie or Serenity Caldwell?
Or Star Wars, more money.
Well, they're going to get it anyway. I'm not even pretending anymore.
Let's take a break. I'm going to try to get more money out of you right now, okay? Andy Ihnatko here from the Chicago Sun-Times, Serenity Caldwell from imore.com, and, of course, Renee Ritchie also from imore.com. And there is a lot more to talk about, including the iPad Pro. Our show today brought to you by lynda.com. Everybody, I think, who watches our shows loves to learn, right? You're curious. You want to know more about the outside world. Maybe because it helps you at your work. Maybe because it helps you be better at the things you love, like photography or using a Mac. Well, lynda.com is right up your alley. It's for problem solvers. It's for the curious. It's for people who want to make things happen, who want to get a better job or get a raise. If you love photography, if you want to learn how to develop an iOS app, if you want to get better at Excel or master Photoshop, everything's there. Their latest courses, getting started with After Effects 2015, up and running with Premiere Elements 14, up and running with Photo Magico. I never heard of Photo Magico, then I found out, but that's an app, right? That's pretty impressive that they're doing stuff for apps as well. Music production secrets, up and running with Fruity Loops with FL Studio 12. Of course, there's always that great Burt Monroy Pixel Playground series. Love that. If you're learning Photoshop from Burt Monroy, you're learning from the best. It's a all-in-one show of self-contained Photoshop or Illustrator project. The Photo Tools Weekly Show with Jan Kabili, where you can learn new image editing techniques in just a few minutes. It's great because lynda.com has given you kind of full-length courses where you can, become an expert at something, but they're giving you short little sips that you can take to become better at one little skill. It's a great variety, and we're going to give you 10 days free so you can do both. You could take a whole course beginning to end, or you could try a little bit at a time. Even the big courses, you could do that because they have transcripts you can search and jump right to the part you want to learn. I don't, I'm not a professional coder, but I love programming. It's my hobby. So I love taking courses on coding. I'm learning Swift at lynda.com. You can too. It's just fabulous. Lynda, Lynda.com. If you go to lynda.com/MacBreak, 10 days free, the run of the place. You get a sense of what you can do, how you could use it. And I love Lynda because they don't make you declare a major. You get to, your fee, your monthly fee gives you access to every single course. So you can dip into courses, try stuff. There it is, creating a simple iOS app. Anybody could do this. They have one for Apple Watch too. lynda.com/MacBreak. Sign up for your free 10-day trial. You know what? You could do this whole course easily in 10 days. And come out at the other end with an iOS app that you wrote your very own self. Isn't that fantastic? lynda.com/MacBreak. We thank them for their support of MacBreak Weekly. So the rumor mill says 11/11 for iPad Pro. Is that what you're hearing, Renee?
Sounds good. I mean, at this point, if it gets this close, then retail has it, and it's hard to change at that point.
They're getting trained, is what some are saying, right?
Yeah, Mark Gurman, I think, had the 11th as his date.
Yeah.
He's really good with retail sources.
Yeah. And by the way, that means not merely that we'll be able to pre-order, but we could actually pick one up on November 11th.
I hope. I mean, everyone who pre-ordered the Apple TV might have been better off just walking in on Friday. And
that's what I did. On like 12:01 a.m. on Friday, it switched over from come back later to find out if the in-store pickup is available to
We got it.
See it 9.
Is
The only
that
difference with this is it's more of a niche product, so I don't know what the availability. Like the Apple TV, they had cartons full of that, and I don't know how many iPad Pros. I wouldn't dissuade anybody if you really, really, really want one, go and get it on pre-order, and then if it have it at the store, go pick it up and cancel the pre-order.
It is the price of a notebook computer, so
it's expensive. Yeah, we're talking. I mean, I think that the 32 gig version is really one of those. Just starts at. That what you're going to want is the 128 gig version plus a pencil.
The 32 is meant for companies like Pixar who are just going to put them on every desk and don't need LTE and things like that.
Right.
Yeah. But that does mean that it's a good point. It's not so much they're not going to have them, but they're not going to have 128 gig ones of them. So unless you're, I'm wondering if the ones that are going to sell out first are the ones without GPS and LTE, or whether it's the LTE ones that are going to sell out first. Either way,
usually the cheapest and the most expensive both go really fast.
Well, at some point, I'm planning on getting one early. I'm just going to go and buy one because it just makes so much sense for me, whether I get a loaner on day one or not. But I might be interested enough in it to say, if the only one that I can get is the LTE model, okay, let's spend the extra. No, I won't. I keep telling people it's okay to wait to get something, so I'll have to remind myself of that and not get it.
What is it about why is it this fits your needs so well, Andy?
It's because it's a very, very specific set of reasons, because I already have a 13-inch MacBook. So when I want to, as this week, I've got a lot of real work to do and I need to grind through it. I've got something that I can easily toss into a bag and carry through 2 airports on a Monday afternoon. I already have an iPad mini. So when I really want iOS tablet and productivity apps, super portable, I've got that. I think the iPad Pro, I think, will let me do a bunch of things that I can't do already. One of which is to have that super light, super long-lasting device and still be productive on a big, comfortable screen. Not only that, but I don't have an Apple device that has a pen input like that. I like to draw. I like to doodle. I'm not good at it, but I would do more of it if I had that device with me. And the last thing is, situations exactly like this one. Here I am. As a matter of fact, I tweeted out a picture of my setup here. Not only would I be able to enjoy the iPad on the flight over, but even when I travel with this MacBook, I will have that 13-inch screen using one of any different pieces of software on the side of this computer as a second display for my Mac. So I really think that even just as an Air display, even as a big iOS thing. Oh, and the last thing, Comixology. I read comic books. I buy and read comic books every single week. It was the one thing. Even Windows 8.0, as bad as it was, I had a Samsung Touch tablet, and I'm like, I don't like Windows 8 very much, but I like being able to read Comixology comics at exactly publication size or greater. So it's not as though there's $900 worth of value in any one feature, but sometimes you really do the math saying it's worth it for me to have $200 for a portable second display for my PC. It's worth it to spend $180 for a big comic book reader. It's worth it to spend $300 for an art tablet. And you do all the math, and that adds up to, for me, at least $80 more than the purchase price of 128 gig Wi-Fi. Also, I'll say one. I want to say one last thing. Part of it is an investment and putting my money where my mouth is. I really think that computers like the iPad Pro are absolutely the next generation. It's the idea of we're going to have a CPU that is not as screamingly fast on the bench as other CPUs, but we're going to manage it and operate it so efficiently that it will run as fast as a liquid-cooled desktop machine. We're going to have apps that are really purposeful and built to take advantage of its location, of its context and how you're actually using things. And I feel as though, just like a lot of us, not me because I was too young to have a $3,000 computer, a lot of people bought the first Mac not because it was really ready for prime time, but because it obviously was pointing the direction of what all computing should be like in the next 2, 3, 4, 5, or 10 years. I think the iPad Pro, and this isn't based on actual hands-on review, it feels as though if I want us to move past this idea of there is a screen, there is a keyboard, and we will type on the keyboard while we watch the screen. If we want that to move forward, we're going to have to encourage people to make devices like that. Maybe it's more like the first Tesla than the first Mac, but that's the sort of stuff I'm talking about.
No, that's an interesting point. So it's almost as if you're willing for it not to be perfect, not to have all the software you want, but I want to support this platform.
If not for I wouldn't make that a factor. I don't make nearly enough money to.
It's not a donation.
Try to support a company that has $200 billion in cash. But if not for the fact that, like I said, there are all kinds of specific things. I always say that if you're considering a new piece of hardware, a new piece of tech, it needs to do one or both of these things. It needs to either solve a problem or create an opportunity. And for me, the iPad Pro, I think, will both solve a problem for me and create an opportunity. So tempted to buy a Surface Pro 4 because it really is fantastic. But it really did come down to, I don't necessarily, for my personal uses, I don't want a desktop operating system inside my ultralight big tablet. For my personal uses, given that my desktop OS is a Mac, I would rather have an iOS device. If I were a Windows shop, then I think it would be the opposite. I think there's nothing that could stop me from buying a Surface Pro.
And I mentioned it before that the Surface Book has really convinced me of the value of a touch OS, and even with Windows not being the ideal touch OS. Do you think this is the beginning of a transition to iOS for Apple?
Look at the
full-time OS.
Well, look at the pie chart. Apple has already transitioned into being, at least monetarily, an iOS company. I think that we're still far away from a world in which people can get all the stuff done that they need to get done with the computer solely through a tablet. I think that we're very, very close to the point where we can do it solely through a phone. But I'm not sure that we're going to see a elimination of keyboards anytime soon. They're just too many things that if you want to interact with this for more than 43 minutes, at some point you got to get a keyboard and hook it up to that thing, which is why the Magic Keyboard is so desperately disappointing.
Yeah. Okay, Renee and Serenity, are either of you not going to buy it, and why is it not for you if that's the case?
Well, I'm definitely going to buy it, so I can't answer that.
How about you, Renee?
You know what?
Are you not going to buy it?
They had me at pencil, Leon.
Crap.
I have never used a stylus input device that worked as well as the pencil did on the iPad. And what flabbergasted me is that I've used Wacom for a decade, and their stuff has gotten better. But what Apple did first time out of the gate, and granted they've been working on it behind the scenes for a couple of years, but first time out of the gate is incredibly impressive.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Serenity.
No,
I didn't mean to cut you off just because you're going to buy one.
I'm going to buy one. Therefore, my opinion is irrelevant. No, I was going to, speculating on what this device may not be for, who this device may not be for. For one thing, if you just bought an iPad Air 2 and you don't necessarily need, if you still like carrying an iPad and a laptop, which some people do. Some people really enjoy the iPad mini form factor with a MacBook Pro or a MacBook. And I really do feel like the iPad Pro is much more of a laptop replacement than a laptop augmenter. It seems like the type of device that would work really, really well with an iMac. And especially if you use a software like AstroPad, which allows you to turn your iPad display into a multi-touch and pressure-sensitive display for your Mac, you essentially have a Cintiq tablet there. But to me, it makes less sense if you want to get it as a laptop augmenter. You wouldn't want to carry around an iPad Pro and a 13-inch MacBook Pro.
And I'm not an artist, so I love the I love the idea of being able to draw and all that stuff. It's not. I mean, I think I don't want to get one. I probably will, but I don't want to get one because I'm afraid I'm going to be mightily disappointed. I think the range of apps that take advantage of it will be small.
As a fan of technology,
and maybe one doesn't know how many apps will come out later. It's just not. It's unpredictable. It's a new
As a
platform.
fan of technology, like I just want to get my hands on that A9X, and I want to get my hands on that pencil.
Yeah.
I think Apple is
It's $1,000.
inarguably the leader in silicon right now. Like I would not have said that last year because I think Intel was still doing interesting things. But what Apple has managed to do in the span of just a few years is incredible. And I want to, and this is the craziest chip they've ever shipped. And I want to try it out. I want to see what it can do. I want to see, they've never done a stylus before. I was incredibly impressed by the tilt sensitivity and by the accuracy. And I want to see what they can do. So this to me is like Andy, it's optimistic. It's an investment in the future, but it's also an incredible nerd curiosity over how close Apple can get to this sort of multi-purpose, multifunctional productivity, creativity. And just for like, my mom is going to get one because she uses her iPad as her primary computer, and she still doesn't use her Mac very often. And she's an artist, so this is going to be the best computer she's ever owned.
For creatives, I have no doubt, and I am an aspiring photographer. It does look like it'll be a really interesting kind of Lightroom machine. It'll be a really interesting.
Like 3 streams of 4K, Leo.
Yeah, video. I mean, it would be really fun to edit video in this. Do you know this app that they're showing on the page? That's not iMovie, is it?
I think that is.
That looks like iMovie.
Wow.
Yeah, that's iMovie.
Wow. Yeah, see, that might be kind of fun to edit an entire movie with your finger.
I love,
Spinner,
you know what, I
does it all
did
the
it
time,
on
yeah.
with the iPhone 6S and 6S Plus. I do it all the time for iMore, and I do it occasionally on the iPhone or on the iPad. The 6S Plus is actually really easy to edit with, but with the iPad Pro, what's really nice is you're going to have triple stream video editing. You're basically going to have techniques that are close to high-level iMovie, low-level Final Cut Pro, for on a touch screen device. And I actually much prefer editing with touch screen than editing with a mouse or with a trackpad. It feels much more natural and much quicker to do so. So I'm really looking forward to the potential that's there. I think I'm with Andy there. I don't think that I think you're right, Leo. There's not going to be a lot of must-have apps on day one. It's going to be a device that evolves. And that's actually what intrigues me, because it's going to be released essentially as a blank slate, all right, let's see what we can do with this. That allows both developers and users to figure out what the best use case is and petition Apple. I think iOS 9 and split screen and slide over, this is all stuff that came from users and developers petitioning Apple and basically saying, I really love... I love the iPad, but it needs some kind of multitasking. It needs to be better, to be faster.
If you buy this, you have to buy the pencil, right? I mean, obviously you don't, but you should.
You
right?
don't, but you should.
Yeah.
I mean,
how about the keyboard?
No.
No.
It's going to be so much
will
better.
still be supported.
Exactly. There can be so much better third-party cases than that. I've never touched that keyboard. I have used a couple of different keyboards that use that kind of design, and they are fine for 41 minutes. 42 minutes, you're going to wish you gone to Kensington, gone to Logitech, bought the lovely clamshell case. The day that the iPad Pro was announced, I was getting press releases from a lot of major players that were not able to show me, of course, the pictures of this wonderful keyboard case they were designing because they just heard about this the day before themselves, but they were certainly eager to do it. There's another thing that is kind of interesting about all this. There's a battle that really has to be fought. Here we have a device that is cost like a laptop, and certainly I think most of the people who buy it, even if they're buying it as a creative device, are going to be anticipating desktop style apps to come out for it in terms of what you can do with it, not just Crossy Road, although that's going to be awesome on 12.9 inch screen, but they're going to expect to make money and get value out of it.
How many different size screens can we play Crossy Road on?
Let's find out, Leo. Let's find out. But in the desktop realm, people are used to spending $30, $40, $50, $60, $70, $100, $200, $20 a month for productivity apps. But it is an iPad and it runs iOS, and that's a world where people have just a stupid amount of friction against paying more than $4.99 for something. So I'm hoping that it's not going to be the case where developers aren't going to be interested in writing software that takes full advantage of the iPad on the same scale that there's such a huge library of apps for the iPad because the iPhone, because they're going to worry that we have to pay all the people that for all the time we're going to be putting into this. We're going to have to charge $50 for this art app, and we don't think that we can sell something that's an iOS app for $50.
I guess I have to buy one now.
For the
I think it's amazing that what a great testimony Apple's doing. Leo's a CEO, so he doesn't really count. But the three of us, we are journalists. We make no money. We're cheapskates, and the three of us are saying we want to buy the version. And not only that, we're tech journalists. We know that the version 1 of anything you should stay away from. And we're going to be on the pavement, like with blankets wrapped around us in Boston, trying to make sure that if there's 4 iPad Pros for sale, we're one of the first 3 in line.
Yep.
It's not just a big iPad, is what you're saying.
No.
It's an iPad on
I think it's
iMacs.
the start of something different.
It's the start of something different.
And it's going to take some time to have it truly figure out where it falls in the ecosystem. But I think it is a really great first reinvention by Apple now to figure out where the iOS, specifically the tablet revolution is going.
I guess I'll be in an Apple store on November 11th.
Say hi to Woz.
Sorry, not sorry.
You talked me into it. I was really trying to resist. I know. I mean, we have to buy it for review, so I'm going to buy one for Megan for iOS today. And I have the new Mini. I thought, well, I'd just use my new Mini. But then my wife says she has to have one.
Yep.
Now you guys talked. You just talked me into a $3,000 purchase.
Horrible people.
You're horrible.
Why don't you round it up to 5 and buy one for me and either Renee?
I should. I should get one for a Christmas present for all of the people that really make such a difference in this network. Actually, maybe I will. I'll think about it.
Apple TVs and iPad Pros.
I bought you funny hats. What more do you want?
I know. I want a Twitter heart button, Leo. How about that?
I can do that. Yet the Twitter now doesn't have stars; it has hearts.
Yep.
How dare they?
The fact that that's a major news story tells you.
When we should be talking about OneDrive's new price hike, and we're talking
holy
about
cow,
hearts.
OneDrive. Screw you, Microsoft. I think so many of us, because Microsoft said if you get the Office 365 subscription, you will have infinite storage on OneDrive. And many of us, Paul Thurrott ended up putting everything on there, all his music and everything. Now, you're still going to get a terabyte, but they backed off. They said, no, we changed our mind. Too many of you were misusing it, which I find hard to believe. I really don't think that a small number. They quoted people putting hundreds of terabytes up. That's, remember, you still have to upload it. That takes time, A terabyte is a lot of storage. It's hard to fill up a terabyte.
Maybe Amazon decided, hey, we can use this for AWS and do the markup.
Maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, Microsoft's backed off on that, and I heart it.
Yeah, I did not heart the Microsoft backup.
No, I don't heart it. But see, we don't have any choice. I could favorite it. I like favorite. Heart implies a judgment.
You like it. Yeah.
I don't want to heart it, by the way.
It should be a bookmark button.
I know so many women who are good at this, and I am just...
So use your thumb or your palms.
Oh.
That's the other trick.
Oh, yeah. See, I can't do it like Renee does it.
I got to go back to this one. I don't know. Error
This
hashtag.
one's hard. I don't like this one at all.
Yeah, I can't do it either.
I
Less than 3.
vastly prefer the hearts.
Okay.
Keeps coming out goat horns.
Most of the people
And
who
also
are
with
listening to
this
this show
one-
don't know what's going on at all now.
Yeah.
What is that one?
Mimes.
Hearts.
So she's saying touch your palms and do a heart. That is a lot easier to do
and then
do
you
a
can
heart that
break
way.
it.
And then you can...
Aw.
Oh, you broke it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Microsoft, you
Dislike.
broke my heart.
That's it.
I wouldn't go that far.
The Microsoft.
Before OneDrive.
I don't know if
after
Microsoft ever
OneDrive.
had my heart in the first place.
I was using OneDrive. I was taking it because I have Office 365 and I was taking advantage of all the storage. But I didn't, even when I'm uploading everything, I can't get to more than a terabyte. So they're still giving you a terabyte.
I tried.
I tried, just couldn't do it. Our show today brought to you by IT Pro TV. A good IT Pro is always working on getting their skills up. Things are changing in the IT world so rapidly that, if you went out and you got an A-plus cert 5 years ago, I doubt you could get an A-plus cert today. I mean, that is how fast this stuff is changing. Fortunately, it's easy to keep up with IT Pro TV. And by the way, it's going to look awesome on your iPad Pro. They have a Roku app, looks good on my big screen TV as well. IT Pro is kind of like Twit, except they have 2 studios. They do 50 hours of programming every week, streamed live and on demand to your Chromecast, to your computer, to your mobile device, on your Roku. It's their second anniversary, and big things are happening at IT Pro TV. 30,000 members, and I'm guessing probably half of those heard about it first on Twit. 75 countries, over 1,000 hours of content, 2 studios, 50 hours a week. And it's all, look at the course library to get an idea. That's the Certified Ethical Hacker cert. That's an awesome cert. There's so much great stuff. The iOS apps have been updated along with the Roku apps so that you can resume playback between devices. The new website, and the new which you're looking at right now, and the new interface with features like speeding up video and audio while watching courses so you can cram more into your brain faster. Now they've upgraded. They have the Transcender practice exams included with your subscription. That's a $135 value. You also get over 100 step-by-step virtual machine labs, all new, all included with your membership. This is the way to learn about IT, whether you're trying to get a job in the business or trying to keep your job. Corporate and group pricing available, of course. Clients include Harvard, MIT, UCSD, Stanford. Upgrade your brain. Go to itpro.tv/MacBreak. Subscriptions are normally very affordable, $57 a month, or get 2 months free when you get an entire year, $570. But if you go to itpro.tv/MacBreak and use the offer code MacBreak30, you get a free 7-day trial and 30% off your subscription forever. From November 9th through the 11th, see Tom Lamley live on IT Pro TV recording his new course on Cisco Firepower and Advanced Fireside Administration. Todd really should be in the Cisco Hall of Fame. He's a rock star when it comes to Cisco networking. He's written over 25 books. He'll be discussing his new book, SourceFire SS FIPS Firepower, with over 1 million copies in print. That's a great class. And you can watch that free, by the way. November 9th through the 11th. If you have a free basic account, you can watch live from 9:30 a.m. Eastern every day. And, of course, all the great content's available for on-demand streaming anytime to subscribers. But this is a great opportunity to see and chat. They have a chat room, too, with Todd Lamley live and get his amazing advice on Cisco. That by itself is worth something. Visit itpro.tv/MacBreak. Don't forget that offer code MacBreak30 will save you 30% on the cost of your subscription, free forever, for the rest of your life, if you wish it. itpro.tv/MacBreak. It is time for our picks of the week. Let me start with Serenity Caldwell. Serenity?
All right. Well, I think I have to go with the Apple TV game that has been monopolizing my time.
Now I'm in trouble.
For the
What?
past, this is honestly. So this is not a new Apple TV game, or not a new game rather. I believe it was on iOS first, but Rayman Adventures. Has
I've been playing it too. It's so good.
It's so much fun.
Yay!
It reminds me entirely of the Sonic days of yore,
Yes.
and I wish. You could probably pull up a trailer from the iOS version, but on iOS, I've tried playing it on iOS and I wasn't really into it. With a game control,
You need a controller.
with the Nimbus.
Yep.
Oh, it just feels so good. And the levels are so darn hard. I've gotten to World 3 or World 4, and there's one that's a time trial that involves lava, and it's
I'm a huge Rayman fan, and I played all of these games on the Xbox with a controller, with a real controller, and they're so much fun. And I was so glad to see it on the Apple TV, and I immediately bought it.
Must buy purchase.
Yep.
If you like old side scroller style games, Sonic or any of those kinds of puzzle, race against the clock, collect items, you'll love it. You'll absolutely love it.
Great game, Ubisoft. It's French, and it has a certain French je ne sais quoi. And how much is it? Do you know?
I think it's
you and I got it free because we already bought it for iOS.
Rayman Adventures. We're going to find out right now. I believe it's $4.99.
Yeah, worth it. Really
but I should check. Or no, you know what? It's free.
It is free.
It's free.
Oh,
because
in-app
it
purchases. Yes.
In-app purchases, but you don't need in-app purchases to play it.
No,
which is
very
delightful.
playable. Yep. So now you know why you have to buy the 64 gig Apple TV.
Yep.
Renee, your pick of the week.
I have two. The first one sort of goes with what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago when it comes to password managers and why you liked LastPass so much, because it provided sort of a group environment. So 1Password just a couple hours ago announced 1Password for Teams. So if you are a 1Password fan, but you've always wished that you could deploy that across your business, your company, or whatever sort of group you work with, they now have a solution for that. I believe it's going into beta now, and it's going to roll out. I don't recall the date offhand. I apologize, but it'll let you do all the sorts of things that you want to do for password management in a group, in a company, in a team situation.
I tried all of the alternate password managers because I'm worried about LastPass, and this was easily my favorite.
Yeah, it's if you were on the Apple ecosystem early on, it was just what you did because it was available, and they quickly rolled it out to every platform. Like they were on the Watch day one. Yep. It's just a terrific team. They're working really hard for the Apple community. I have not had a chance to try this yet because they kept it utterly secret, like a good security company should, until noon today. So that's just been announced. So check that out if you're interested. The other thing I wanted to bring up is what you and Serenity were talking about earlier, and that is the game controllers. This is the SteelSeries Nimbus. And if you're a fan of console controllers, this is great. It charges by lightning, so it already uses the same thing your Apple remote does. And if you've got the new Magic Keyboard and trackpad, it charges the same way. It's got the dual analog sticks, and it's positioned in a way that humans should, not all, strangely positioned like other gamepads. It's got the four-way, it's got the buttons, it's got the shoulder. I'm holding this up for people listening on audio, I apologize, but it's got the triggers, it's got the shoulder buttons. It's got almost everything you could possibly want, short of Nintendo, switching over and making hardware controllers for Apple TV, which I would love, but probably won't happen. If you're looking for a controller, you can pair up to two of them with, or if you have Bluetooth headphones, up to one of them. But you can pair them with your Apple TV, and you can play multiplayer games, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I got the other steel case that uses regular batteries. Maybe the next one I'll get will be the rechargeable.
Rechargeable is nice. I mean, there is something to be said for swapping batteries quickly if you forget about it. But when you don't have batteries, it's even worse. So the ability to recharge it is super nice.
They claim really good battery life, so I'm waiting to see. Like months. And then the problem is it has an on-off switch, and of course I know I'm going to forget to turn it off. So
yeah, I mean, I've had PlayStation controllers for so long that were rechargeable that I think I'm just sort of used to it.
Yeah.
Also, it has a automatic off after 15 minutes.
Oh, it
I
does.
believe.
Okay.
There are no but yeah. I don't even bother with the
That's a
on-off
reason
switch.
to get it. Okay. So
Yeah.
so it doesn't matter even if it has an on-off switch. It doesn't matter.
I've only ever charged it once. I mean, granted, I've only gotten it over the weekend, but it's still at like 89%.
Well,
and I've been playing with it a lot.
You've been playing a lot of Rayman, I could tell.
Yes, I have.
If you're in the third world already, wow. Andy Anatko, your pick of the week.
Sometimes I like to re-recommend a pick that I picked a while ago because it has either renewed my faith in it or I stopped using it for reasons that may not have had anything to do with the app, and I've rediscovered it. And that's the case this week with Mars Edit by Red Sweater Software. This is the offline Mac-based blog editor that works with WordPress and a couple other different blog formats. When WordPress finally did a heroic level of upgrades to its built-in web editor, I kind of stopped using it. Again, I never disliked Mars Edit. I just didn't decide that it was necessary. I switched back to. I tried it again over the weekend. And it has been a real revelation. They've made a bunch of improvements since 3 or 4 years ago, since the last time that I used it. But also, it really reminded me of the difference between having a bespoke app for web posts and having to open up a web page in order to post things to the blog. There are so many hooks into macOS between this app that it makes it really, really easy to do short, snappy little posts. Every time that I wanted to post just a simple link, for instance, and a comment about that link to my blog through the WordPress web app, there were so many button clicks to make that happen that it's not as though it was tortuously inelegant. It's just that it was a lot of steps, and it kind of it kind of disabled my enthusiasm for, hey, that's a really great article I just read. I think I'll share it on my blog. Now it's like a 15-minute process to make it happen. It's like, oh, that's not worth it's not a good enough article for me to spend 15 minutes doing a blog post about it. With Mars Edit, it takes all of 30 seconds, and now I've been posting all kinds of stuff. The other thing, which I didn't really figure on, is that sometimes you play a mind game with yourself when you're a writer. I find that it was so hard for me to write short pieces in WordPress because for whatever reason, that sort of engages the I'm Mendy Notcom. I'm a professional tech journalist.
Right.
And so it has to be in depth. It has to be very, very considered.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's not, so I would intend to just write a quick blurb about here's why I recommended this article, but it turned into no, this now inspired me to write 1,200 to 2,000 words on this topic.
That's why we love Twitter, because you can't.
Exactly. As a matter of fact, that was the inspiration. I was asking myself the question over the weekend: why is it that I can really crystallize a thought in 140 characters, and I'm just giving thoughts, ideas, boom, 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 posting to Twitter several times a day? Why do I not ever be able to do that on this thing? And I figured that it was because there was too much friction. But to complete that earlier thought, though, the cool thing about Mars Edit is that for whatever reason, I'm just composing a quick blog post. I know that people don't think of this as a column or as a big article that I'm writing, so it's okay for me to just be 2 or 3 paragraphs long, or to have a thought that just simply states something and moves away without really exploring it in depth. So I said about technology creating opportunities or solving problems. Again, this seemed to have been doing both for me, particularly on the creating opportunities, because my blog has kind of laid fallow because, again, it's just too much of it. When I'm spending all day doing this anyway for the Sun Times and other places, it's hard for me to say, okay, I'm not going to write tech stuff and blog stuff for fun. And this seems to help me with that. I've got a super top secret project that I've been working on for a little while that this app is also going to really help me out with. And the last thing about this, I like the fact that he's charging $40 for it. A decent amount of money for a really, really good piece of software. It's getting now so that I'm actually happy when I see a developer, even for iOS, charging a decent amount of money for an app, because I know that there's that much greater chance that this app is going to continue to be supported and continue to evolve and be improved as macOS and iOS continues to improve.
I use it too. In fact, the only thing that really gripes me about switching from WordPress to Squarespace is it doesn't work with Squarespace, and it makes me sad. I miss
Alex,
it.
better get on that.
Yeah, Galaxy.
Yeah, I don't know. The API, they took the API out of the latest Squarespace.
It's sad.
And I guess because they have their own app, which is fine. But I really loved Mars Edit. I used it all the time. A lot of convenient features. That plus Acorn was blogging heaven. I can't remember. Did I pick the Ricoh Theta camera, or did I just talk about it? Because this is definitely a pick. Have I picked it?
I don't think you have.
Okay.
I don't remember.
$350. This is a camera with dual fisheye lenses on both sides. It could take stills or video. Finally, is very high resolution. Although with this, you have to use the stitching program that they offer, and although there is an API, I expect we'll see other stitching programs. The one I'm really hoping for, it has live HDMI video out. So if there were a live real-time stitching program, we could actually put out live 360-degree immersive videos. But let me show you. This is an example of what took right before. This is what you see on the show, but if I zoom out, you'll get a little bit of a better idea of what it looks like to be in the studio, and I can even rotate around and show you everybody. This is one shot. There's our studio audience. Hello, you're famous. There's our one. This is one blip like that, and it stitches it together automatically. The software does a really good job. You don't even see the camera. It stitches the camera out. That's where the camera was sitting on that platform, but you don't see it because it's been stitched out.
What we look like in the alien globe, Leo.
Yeah, this is cool. And if you have Cardboard or you have an Android device and you view this on the Android or Cardboard, moving your head around or moving the phone around will allow you to easily scroll. With a 360-degree video, you can post it on YouTube and Facebook after you stitch it, and then they'll have controls that let you scroll around. It's a specialty, but it's really fun to be able to, give you this kind of view. And somebody's asking me how much resolution. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's zoom in on the chat room here. See if we can read. It's not super high resolution, but look at that. I can still read the chat room.
Amazing.
So that's pretty good. That's fairly heavily zoomed in. You can see the grain, but it's kind of a dark studio. So I really like this. It's very compact. It has quarter 20 thread on the bottom, so you can put it on a tripod. I got a special tripod, so I can put it there because you use the iPhone to control it, or I guess you could use an iPad. You can use an Android device. If you don't, you'll always be taking pictures, and your hand and your arm will be in every shot. But I just put it on stuff, and then that's how I did this. I used the remote. In fact, you could see me kind of wincing at looking at the remote trying to shoot it. But I'm way over here shooting the shot. If you use your iPhone to take the picture, you can really get amazing pictures. And as I said, it does video as well. There's some examples of that on my blog, leoville.com. I shot last week the first 15 minutes of the radio show, so you can kind of be in there and look around as I'm doing the radio show. $350 for a very specialized camera. It's a lot if you're a realtor. If you have some excuse to do this, it's worth it. It does a good job. This is the new version of this. This is the third, the Ricoh Theta S, and it's definitely a pick. Now here's the actual pick, and Burke handed this to me before the show began, and this is so wild. You could buy this on Amazon for about $1. It's called the Smart Key version 2.0. Let me open it up, and I'll show you what it does. It's kind of a strange item, but if you don't use your headphones, by the way, somebody's telling me $279 on the on B&H. If that's accurate, that becomes a good deal. So what it is it's a little headphone jack that you put in your headphone, and it turns it into a button. This duplicates the button on the Apple headphones. So if you don't use a headphone jack a lot, but you want a quick stop button as you're listening to, let's say, an audio book, you just click that button on the bottom of your phone. It adds a stop button to the bottom of your phone. Okay, crazy, but it's only $1.
Brilliant.
I think it's kind of a cool idea. It's I'll show you. It's pretty easy to take out too. It doesn't stick up. Let me take the case off so you can see it. It doesn't stick up too far. It has to stick up a little bit, or it wouldn't be a button. But it sticks, and also it sticks up just enough so that it's very easy to just pop it out. So that's.
It's not a Galaxy Note stylus.
No, it's not a stylus. Which camera do you want? You want this camera? Oh, could you use it to take a picture? Oh. That would be interesting if it added a camera button.
Yeah. But you would already have the volume button to do that.
Oh, yeah, but this is a dedicated... No, it doesn't do it.
No.
Or does it? Maybe it just breaks the app. Okay, well, there you go. I don't recommend it anymore.
Pen team?
No, it's kind of cool. It did freeze the app.
That's great, because usually freezing that up, there's so many... I always wish there was a dedicated button for that.
Yeah, if you need a button, it just goes right in there and it freezes the app for you. Just in case your phone, your camera phone app is bothering you.
Everybody get a button.
What the hell happened? It really didn't like whatever that was. I don't know if I can blame the button for that.
Hold down
What
the
did you
sleep
do?
button.
I guess I can get out of it. But let's see if that'll relaunch it. Yeah, good. It's back. That concludes this edition of MacBreak Weekly. Serenity, it's great to see you. I saw that you won the roller derby championship and then gave it up. You're retiring on a high note.
Not retiring. So we won our local championship, the Boston Championships this year. We've gone 13-2 in the last 3 years.
Wow.
And the last 2 champs we lost by 1 point, which this is a game which winning scores can be up to 150 to 300 points in the positive. So losing by 1 point 2 years in a row, we really wanted it this year, and we got it.
Congratulations.
But I'm leaving the Boston team probably to skate closer to where I live now.
Oh, okay. So you're going to continue to skate.
But I'm going to keep on skating. Keep on skating.
You're going to continue to skate. What's your new team going to be? Do you know, or can you say?
Yeah.
What's going on with her? You're breaking up in an unusual way I've never seen happen before.
I don't know. I am going to blame
your video's
tiny
fine.
Little button.
That's the button. Did you get one? You got one too.
Also, she's just getting over a cold. I mean, I imagine she was able to hold that in for 2 hours.
It may just be my voice. Yeah.
Whatever hotel Andy Anako's staying at, use their Wi-Fi. Rock solid. You look great, my friend.
Yep, a window with palm trees also helps.
Yeah, that's nice. Thank you for being here. Chicago Sun-Times, of course, you can read his writing there. And the new revived CWOB.com with lots of short posts.
Yes. Yeah, but you no longer need to eat an energy bar before every single thing that I post there. You'll be able to read it quickly.
I'm trying to do the same thing. I really want to kind of keep more stuff of my own. Yeah.
Well, it's part of a nutritious breakfast. I hope to continue to write for the Sun-Times for the next 20 years because I love doing that. It's just that I can't give my editor a 200 words and a link, and he has to edit it. He has to post it. And also I know that there are people that are like to consume lots of shorter things. So I'm just adding that to the mix. And also Jason Snell does it so well. Jim Dalrymple does it so well. John Herbert does it so well. And they're inspired me to do more than what I'm doing right now.
Yes, and I am too at leoville.com. In fact, if you want to read more about the Theta, the Ricoh Theta S, I've posted a little bit longer post there with some other video as well. It's fun to have a little place all your own. You know what I mean?
Well, I've had a blog since 97, 98.
Me too. Since 2000 for me. And it's funny because over the years I've moved from platform to platform, and each time I move, pieces of it get shredded off. I mean, I always export and try to bring it with me. All the text survives, but most of the images and stuff are gone. So really, I've learned my lesson that I've got to kind of, I don't have a MacBreak Weekly picture in there. I got to work on that. And thank you, Mr. Rene Ritchie from imore.com for joining us. As always, it's a wonderful thing to have you here.
Thank you, Leo.
Everybody must go and read all of the stuff on iMore, especially if you're getting a new Apple of any kind of thing of any kind, because they work so well as a team. As you heard, no, Serenity's used the tap. You got to use the manual.
Yep.
They work so well to create great how-to articles at imore.com. Also great podcasts. Your network is growing. Did you see the podcast map? I think you did. I think you tweeted about it as well.
Did you see the Google Podcast terms and conditions, Leo?
Who cares? Why? What are they?
That they have the right to add post-roll to your video.
Post-roll, I couldn't care less. I don't, I don't think anybody makes it to the end of our shows anyway. If they want to put an ad at the end there, God bless them. More power to them.
Is that true? Butts.
We're testing that theory right now.
You can say anything you want. This is the I saw that, but they do say they won't put pre-roll on it, and they won't put interstitial stuff. So I don't care if they want to put post-roll. So this is the map of the universe. Andy is here too, as you see. And then Renee, you're starting to, the podcast universe starting to expand a lot in here. And there's Serenity.
I like that my name there is Serenity Gladwell.
Oh, rats. Who is
and I'm
that?
Not connected to the Incomparable Network, which is funny.
You get a percentage from Malcolm? That's the only question I would ask.
We'll fix that one. That's it. And of course, this is wildly incomplete, but I'm just glad that I'm in the center. That's all I care about.
You would need 300 satellites, Leo.
Hey, thanks everybody for being here. We do MacBreak Weekly every Tuesday morning, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1900 UTC. Yes, that's a new time. Not that UTC's changed. We move around because of this silly daylight saving time thing. 1900 UTC. If you want to be in studio, please do. We love having you. Tickets at twit.tv. Just email us so we can put a chair out for you. If you can't be in studio, if you can't watch live, you can watch whenever you want or listen whenever you want, because we make, of course, on-demand audio and video available, not only at our website, twit.tv/mbw, but wherever podcasts are aggregated, including, I'm hoping, soon on the Apple TV. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. Now get back to work because break time is over.